Okay, folks, sounds like we're ready to go then. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Nobody else in the waiting room.
Nobody else in the waiting room at the moment. Okay, Tom, you're back? I just see a still photo of you.
I'm back. I'm on mute.
Okay. So welcome everybody to our September 3rd GMAC meeting, which we hold monthly. And as of lately, we've been, for the last 4, 5, 6 months, we've been holding virtually. So we start usually by announcing or by introducing ourselves. We've had a slight attrition of council members, but I think 4 of us are here, and that would be Melissa Finley, yes. Melissa Finley, Donald Hess, Tom Murphy, and myself, Robert Youngling. Announcements. I just wanted to reiterate kind of what we started off or didn't start off with at our beginning of our meeting last month, but we did before we got into the main part of our agenda, we talked about it, and that was kind of a guideline or some rules of discussion that we all agreed on. And that was those wishing to speak, they must be recognized by the moderator or the chair. Okay, tonight Don is moderating. Committee presentations, whether that's any of our committees or a presentation from outside, we try to hold that to 15 to 20 minutes. That's including the sheriff's forum, but you know, we're going to make an exception for the sheriff, of course. All speakers, whether it's public or even us as council members, we're usually allowed about 3 to 5 minutes of presentation. Tom said he would remain or would continue to be the timekeeper on those matters. The public usually speaks first, then the council members, and then all attendees will usually be muted until they're recognized by either a hand waving or somehow some other way by chatting or by doing some other way that to contact Don that they would like to speak. But they have to be recognized or have to be acknowledged, okay? So with that, any other announcements?
I would just say, Don, if you'd like to keep time, it's fine with me. I have a timer here, but if it's easier for you, I'll do it.
Yeah, I can do it as well, either way.
Why don't you take it on then? Thanks.
Okay. So let's move on to number 2 then, unless we have any other announcements.
I have an announcement.
Okay, go ahead, Melissa.
We never discussed having those rules in every meeting. We never voted on having those rules in every meeting. Those aren't in the bylaws. You're totally bypassing the bylaws, which do not say that.
We haven't officially yet, but it's kind of a courtesy thing, and we have practiced that for years, that we allow speakers 3 minutes. We've audience members during public expression 3 minutes. We've always been lenient with those minutes, but I don't recall ever having written them down. It was last month that we knew we were getting into some big agenda items, and we just felt that we needed to, especially since we're doing these virtual meetings now, we had to somehow have a little bit more control and order over how people speak, because we were getting a lot of interruptions and we didn't have it totally down yet with this virtual meeting thing. So that's why we introduced those rules or guidelines of discussion, and we all agreed to them last month. But however—
No, we did not. We did not agree. We did not all agree to those last month.
Well, nobody had any objection.
It was not discussed. You introduced it, you dictated that was what was going to happen, and you never had a discussion, and you never had a vote, ever.
Well, maybe we should discuss that as a council then at some appropriate time, but I was just reiterating what we agreed to last month, or we
didn't agree to it.
We didn't disagree, let's say then, okay, Melissa? But Tom is waving his hand. Can we hear from you, Tom, under announcement?
Yeah, I'll just note that Robert did discuss them last meeting. There was an objection from Sharon about them. The other council members did not object, and Robert proceeded as is, I believe, the discretion of the chair.
When you make a statement, that's not a discussion. He made a statement. He said, he dictated, this is how things are going to be. And Sharon tried to object, but no one else said anything. There was no discussion. None. Let alone a vote.
Nor was there a call for a vote?
No, it needs to be put on the agenda.
We didn't call for a vote, Melissa, but I asked everybody if they're okay with those, and nobody objected.
No, you didn't. Or I would have said, I'm not okay with that. That's not a good way to run a meeting. You can't mute us when we meet in person. You shouldn't be able to mute council members when we meet.
That's not the point of order here. It's how long we have to, in order to keep the meeting moving forward, how long we have as speakers to speak. And we said, we've always agreed to 3 to 5 minutes over all the years that I've been on
never.
GMAC. Yes,
never.
We have.
I have been here for more than a year and we never discussed members being limited to 3 minutes. It's not even in the bylaws.
Why, you want to make it an agenda item?
Let's it needs to be put on the agenda next time so we have time to discuss it. There's too many other things tonight.
Okay. Well,
usually what you do is you trust people to be polite, but you do not mute them. That is rude and unnecessary. And you've got 3 people who have resigned because of that idiocy. You need to stop doing it now.
Okay, Melissa, that's your announcement then for tonight, right? We will take that up. We will take that up when we get down to the end of the agenda and we talk about our agenda items for next month. Okay, please remind me.
Put it on the agenda for next month and we'll discuss it then.
If that's what you want to do, unless we want to amend the agenda tonight to include it tonight. It's up to you.
I want it on the agenda properly so that people have time to think about it.
Right. Okay. Then we'll go on here with our meeting tonight. We will hopefully be all courteous and limit our time. Otherwise, we'll be running into the 10 o'clock hour again. I can foresee it again, but we will make a note of that to have that on the next meeting. Melissa, your concern there under announcements. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. So with that, let's move on unless we have another announcement, but I'd like to go on to consent agenda because we've probably got a lot of changes that we need to do there, or amending of correspondence that we've received. I know I sent you all some correspondence that I received from Janine and Craig Graffin. You all received that from me this afternoon. There was an item from Carolyn Sue that we received. There is a letter that I received yesterday from Mendocino Council of Governments. I wanted to mention that under correspondence. And then I thought there was a 4th thing. Oh yeah, Mary sent us the Timber Harvest Plan report. I thought it'd be good to bring that in under correspondence too, since it's something we received at the last minute here.
And I had a couple of things that we received the last minute that I pointed out to Mary.
Okay, Tom, what were those?
I received a communication from Tom Gallardi, the general manager of the cable service, Calneva, and a note from a gentleman named Steve Scully, who lives on the Sea Ranch and wanted to speak to an issue. I could read those into the record since, or I could put them up on the screen either way.
Let me ask you, Tom, does Steve Scully want to speak on a non-agenda item, or what does he want to speak on?
It's not to speak, it's just a statement we received. I was going to enter it as a communication.
Okay, okay. So we've got all those items noted, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mary, you got all that too?
The Gallardi issue is something I'd like to add to the agenda when we get to that. Okay.
Okay. I don't think we've missed anything on added correspondence that we've received since the agenda went out on Monday. So yeah. we'll move
Mary
on.
has her hand up.
Mary has her hand up. Where is she? Okay, I didn't see her on my screen. Mary, go ahead.
Mary, you need to unmute yourself.
Mary, could you unmute yourself? How do we
There,
tell her
okay.
that? There you go.
About
Okay.
I don't know if I got Tom's emails regarding, I did get it about Miss Shue, but I did not get the other one. I didn't catch that, what Tom said. I
That
have
was-
Miss Shue's.
That was Mr. Gallardi. After Ms. Shue, you got one from Tom Gallardi that I forwarded, and from a
Is
Steve
that the internet?
Scully.
that's the
Yes,
internet?
the internet.
Okay, I think I did get that. Yes, thank you. I just
And-
wanted to make sure.
And you have one marked GDP. For, it's referring an item to you from Steve Scully. Should be from me.
And I don't think I saw that one.
I'll send that to you again, Mary.
Yeah, I apologize. I
Not
printed
okay.
everything.
Want to make sure you get it.
I printed everything so I'd have it here on the, regarding all of this, but that's it. I don't know. Sorry. Thank you.
Coming your way. It's marked GDP.
But I won't be able to get it here. I'll get it on my computer at home.
Okay. Well, I could read this. It has to do with the town plan and streetscape, so I could read it during the streetscape discussion. Sure.
Okay.
That I know I did not get.
Okay.
Yeah, streetscape stuff, that one I did not get. I did get a lot of other streetscape stuff, but I did not get that. Thank you, Tom.
Okay, I made a number of notes on my agenda here and regarding all this additional correspondence we received at the last moment. And lo and behold, I have skipped over 2A, our approval of the minutes from the 6th of August. Can we backtrack a second and approve or disapprove our minutes from the 6th of August?
Sure, go ahead.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes from our August 6th meeting?
Move to approve.
Okay, Tom makes the motion to approve. Who would like to second that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Don, thank you. So let me do a roll call. Melissa?
Well, I highly disapprove of what happened, but the minutes themselves I will approve of.
Okay, thank you. Don?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Robert? Aye. Okay, now there was an add-on that came in, or a request for an add-on to those meeting minutes from Janine and Craig Graffin. There was some correspondence that I did not see after our meeting, right the day after our meeting from the 7th, and then some additional correspondence that's come in on September 1st. You'll see the letter that or the email letter that I wrote to the Graffins on the 2nd, I think it was. So we did include it under correspondence, and I wanted to hear from the council what they would like to do, whether they want to attach it to the minutes as an attachment, or how they would like to handle those that request from the Graffins. I had to recuse myself on the vote on that CDP, as you recall. So, but I feel I can vote on this procedural matter.
We're in a little sticky wicket on that one, I think.
Okay.
There's, if you're recused on the issue, we can't reconsider the issue with the council of 4.
We're not reconsidering the issue. I'm only asking if we can add them to the, asking you all if we can add their correspondence to the meeting minutes as they have requested.
Yes.
That's all I'm
Fine
asking.
with me.
Okay. How about Melissa?
Sure.
Don?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, okay. And myself, I feel I can issue or give my vote on that. I'm okay with adding it to the meeting minutes.
There needs to be a vote and a motion and a second to do that, Robert. So
Yes.
do you want to move it? Robert?
I'll make a motion that okay, well, let's vote on it. I'll make a motion that we add the letter correspondence from the Graffins on their CDP to the meeting minutes of August 6th. Anyone want to second that?
No. I think that would be out of order. I think we
Yeah,
should
okay.
add it to this meeting as a correspondence and perhaps consider what to do about that situation later in the meeting when we're assigning CDPs. But we have an issue there in that apparently our council members walk the wrong territory.
Well,
Is
then
that the one?
they walk the right property. It's just some additional correspondence that we received from the Graffins, and they have requested that we add that to the meeting minutes. That's the request. That's all we're handling right at the moment.
Is this the one where, if I remember right, there was a suggestion that we toured the wrong property?
No, not necessarily. It's
May I speak?
go, Melissa, please.
I want to quote the bylaws. Once a motion is pending, council discussion must stop immediately and the chair will call for a second. If there is no second, the motion will die and the council discussion will resume. We're discussing it.
Motion.
You need to call for a second?
There was no second.
Motion has died. Okay, I'll make the motion again. Do we as council members feel that we can include the correspondence, the email correspondence from the Graffins on their coastal development permit that we handled in August, that we attach those to our existing minutes?
The August meeting minutes.
Yes.
I will second for discussion only. I'm going to vote no on this motion.
Let's further discuss before we vote then.
No, you've made a motion, you seconded it, now you need to vote. There is no discussion. You vote.
I'm not sure that,
Robert's
Read the
rules says
bylaws.
you have to have a
You
motion.
read them, Tom.
Melissa, we usually always
Robert's rules say that you need a motion and a second, and then and only then can you
You
discuss.
discuss. That's why we just,
After that. But you did not approve of Robert's rules of order, so
we made a
I'm just
motion.
pointing out Robert's rules.
I understanding also is that once a motion is made, it is seconded, it can be discussed before
Right.
voted on. But it can't be voted on unless there's a second, of course.
Or it can't be discussed unless there's a second, is what we just went through.
Also, yes.
Right. So,
Now we can discuss it. It's
okay.
No, not until a vote is conducted.
Where does it say that
Melissa.
in the bylaws, Melissa?
Melissa, let's discuss.
I am looking at section 6.01, where it talks about motions. Once a motion is pending, council discussion must stop immediately and the chair will call for a second. If there is no second, the motion will die and then the council discussion will resume.
Melissa, you're reading a section on public hearing procedures. That's not what we're doing here.
That's the only place where a motion is pending is mentioned.
Right.
You
And
did
that's,
not bother to put that
that's-
anywhere else in procedures of meetings.
yeah, there's nothing there. This is not a public hearing on a CDP or any other matter. This is a consent agenda item that we're discussing.
Okay.
It does. The bylaws don't have any other thing on how to conduct a vote, how to
Let's-
conduct a motion.
It says roll
The
call
only
voting shall
thing-
be at the discretion of the chair, but there's no reason to prohibit a discussion after a second, which is common practice.
Okay, it's just nowhere in the bylaws.
Right.
Okay.
There's no law against it.
We've agreed to, we've added it to correspondence. We have been requested to add it to our meeting minutes from August 6th. We've had a motion and a second. Let's have a vote, unless more discussion.
More discussion.
Okay, more discussion.
I'd like to see this note, please.
What note are you referring to, Tom?
I'm looking for the note that we received.
Okay.
I don't have it. Can anybody read? Oh, here it is. Robert, I think you forwarded it to us. It is clear that 6 years ago, Lloyd Chasey walked the parcel adjacent to ours to the north when house hunting. That property was for sale 6 years ago, has a much different topography and typically more wet piece of land. We have owned ours for 16 years and have visited the site in all seasons. It's impossible for someone to be up to his knees in water, as Mr. Chasey stated. With the exception of one small localized spot that has become somewhat wet during rainings, our property categorically does not flood. In addition, Sharon Meyer reported that the ground is spongy, attributing it to moisture. That is not quite the case and quite provable. The hydrologist we hired saw no evidence of that. Rather, this is decades of accumulated pine needles. I'm not sure that we were on the right property, were we?
I don't know what property our two past council members walked. I really don't. But I assume they walked.
Do we have Mr. Chasey with us tonight?
Yes, yes, he is.
Would it be appropriate to ask him?
No, I don't. I think we just need to know if we want to include these on our meeting minutes of this past month or not at this point.
Well, wouldn't it be more appropriate to include them in this month's correspondence?
That's what we're doing. We're including it
in this September as opposed to August?
Well, we're including it in our correspondence of this month, those letters that we've received from the Graffins since our August 6th meeting. But they have requested in their letters to us if we can include it in the minutes, their letters on our August 6th minutes. As an attachment, I've suggested.
They've asked have the information included in the minutes for 9/3.
No, for 8.
No.
6.
To follow up on our email to Robert on 8/7, we would like to correct the record and have this information included in the minutes for 9/3/20.
Okay. Then I'm mistaken. Then I'm sorry. I was going off of my memory that they wanted it included in the minutes of this past month's meeting. Okay.
Would you like to withdraw your motion and make a new one?
I'll withdraw my motion. Yes. Thanks for catching that, Tom. I'll make a motion that we include the email correspondence from the Graffins on their CDP from August 6th into our September 3rd meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a second from Tom. Okay. Let me go down the roll call. Melissa?
Yes.
Don?
Aye.
Tom?
Yes.
Robert? Aye. Yes. Okay. Sorry about that confusion, folks. There's a lot of material that comes in at the last second, and I just thought it was for last month's meeting, that they wanted to attach that to last month's meeting. Okay. So that's been done.
Hello, Robert.
Yeah.
This is Craig Graffin.
Craig, yes. Please, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a note here, regardless of which meeting it's attached to, we're considered with what the truth is in this argument.
Okay.
And when only 2 people out of 7 visit the site, and one of those 2 did it 6 years ago and claims that he was knee deep in water, we have a problem with that. It's just not true based on our visits to the property and the terrain. And we know of the properties north of us that have actual ponds of water there where you could easily be more than knee deep in the water, as was stated. It doesn't matter to us, where it's attached in your minutes, but it should go back to what the original statement was that we find to be erroneous.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're basing your next activity or actions on.
A letter to the county.
A letter to the county is what we're talking about.
And now that's another issue, Craig and Janine, that we'll have to deal with tonight. I'm going to suggest before we make a vote on whether or not we approve our agenda for tonight's meeting, I'm going to make a suggestion that we add an agenda item, old business. I don't believe the assignments of letters that were supposed to be written to the county this past month that they got written. I'm not positive on one of the 2 letters, but I am. So I will suggest that we have an old business item on tonight's agenda, and hopefully we'll be able to cover that a little bit more in depth.
Okay.
Okay?
We would like it to get resolved because we have to move forward with the property. So,
Okay,
yeah.
we may end up rewalking your site. I don't know yet, but we'll leave that up for the council to decide as we get further on in our agenda.
Yeah, we welcome your visit to our property, just to see what it's really like.
Okay. Well, good. Good to hear from you too.
Thank you.
Okay, so can we move on to
Tom wants to say something, I believe.
Tom? I didn't see his. Okay, Tom, go ahead.
I was just going to suggest, if we're not sure if the letter has been written on that property, maybe we want to ask Mr. Tracy while he's here about whether or not that was written. If not, then no harm done. But if the letter's been written, we probably should take some immediate action to follow up.
Is he online? I only see Kathleen online.
Oh, I guess he just left.
Yeah.
So, well, I have to assume that it didn't get written because he resigned that night. So,
Mary, have you received a copy of a letter?
no, she hasn't.
I don't see it in my email. I might have if he wrote it, but I don't see it in my email, and I looked pretty carefully today. But my computer went south on me, remember? And I had like 3 or 4 days that I didn't get anything. It could have been sent at that time, or it also could have been sent before and then dropped by my computer when I had trouble with it. So I'm not going to say whether he did or didn't. Oh, Kathleen is there, and she wants to talk. So.
Waving her hand, Dawn, will you acknowledge Kathleen?
Yeah, Kathleen can speak. I think she's unmuted.
Letter has not been written.
Okay, then you guys from here, let's just drop this now for now. It's not been written, nor has the other one for RCLC. So I'll suggest that we have an agenda item for old business, okay? Is that all right for now?
Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So then we have one more item under correspondence, I believe, and that's the CDP 2019-0022 STETS, S-T-E-Z. Jesse Waldman from the County Building and Planning Department was on our meeting for that, but we're only acknowledging or recognizing that we received that correspondence, Jesse. We will be handling it at next month's meeting, and we will assign it later on in our agenda under item 11. So that's all we need to say for that for the time being, okay?
Thank you and have a good evening, everyone.
You're welcome back if you want to come back later. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse.
So, I think we're making some progress here. Let's go on to consent agenda 2C, approval of 3rd of September meeting agenda. Now, one thing that arose here while we were preparing the agenda for September was whether or not we should designate approval of agenda as a separate line item rather than having it under consent agenda. Consent agenda is usually meant for just a quick nod, okay, we consent, and whereas our agenda seems to be getting a lot of amendments here over the months. So maybe we should pull it out of a consent agenda and have it as a separate item. How do you all feel on that?
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Everybody else okay with that little procedural change?
Well, I guess I have a little problem with that, and that is
Okay.
I want to see us spending a whole lot of time just discussing what's going to be on the agenda.
Right.
That takes away from time that we need to devote to other more important items on the agenda, as opposed to spending minutes and minutes and minutes discussing the agenda.
Amending it, right, yeah.
Waste of time. So I
Mhm.
think an agenda that is sent out beforehand that we pretty much all agree on, we should just go with it. And that's why I think it should remain in the consent area.
I agree. Every board and commission I've covered as a journalist in 40 years has had everything in the consent agenda approved with a single vote. Instead of voting on minutes and then accepting the correspondence and then reading the agenda and considering that as a separate item, If there's something that needs to be pulled out for discussion, there could be a motion to pull something out of the consent agenda, but otherwise, normally it happens in about a 5-minute vote. Is there a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, and it's done?
Okay. Melissa, you have anything to say on that? Usually you already did. Don, Tom?
I'm good. I'm good with either one.
Okay, I'm actually good with either one too. In the past, we've always had it under consent agenda, have we not, Mary?
No, it's always been something else. It's always been the third item down because you might approve the minutes immediately, but the agenda as tonight needs to be changed to add the old business section and a couple of other sections. So usually it is by itself, and if you approve the minutes, then that's fine, and then you go and approve the agenda, then that's fine, and that's just like 2 minutes, boom, boom. And if the minutes have to be pulled, then you don't have to vote the agenda by itself. If it's, I mean, then you have to vote the agenda by itself anyway, whether it's in the consent agenda or not. So if you make it 2 different items, you can say approve the minutes, yeah, approve the agenda, yeah, let's go on.
Okay, council, what are we
Or
doing?
pull
What are
one,
we
pull
gonna do?
the other.
Are we gonna vote on this, or, I just looked at the past meeting agenda from August and we had it under consent agenda.
And I'm looking at one from November 19 when we had it under consent agenda.
I'm fine with just leaving it under consent agenda and operating as we have in the
Do
past.
I think we only need to vote on something if we're going to change how it's been done.
Correct.
We're not going
This
to
is,
change and we don't have anything to vote on.
okay, then can we have a motion to approve the 3rd of September meeting agenda?
Did we make changes?
No.
Yes, by adding old business.
No, we haven't yet. So we
Well-
don't have a vote. We don't have a vote to approve our agenda for tonight. So let's
change the agenda before we approve it.
let's hear how we're going to amend it. I would recommend that we amend it by adding old business under, let's put it after our CDP right away, if that's okay with you.
Now, is your idea, Robert, to have this old business item on every forthcoming agenda?
I think it would be a good idea. You see it on Board of Supervisors meetings, you see it on other agendas. I just don't know what exact location we should put it, but I thought since it's important tonight that we address those 2 letters that have not been written, let's put it right under our main business item, which is the Sheriff's Forum and the CDP.
I don't have a problem with old business being an item on every agenda. Now, maybe in some months, there's nothing there.
Right.
Other months, there are some items under old business. But it's okay to have that as an item, a regular item in our monthly agenda, old business.
Okay.
Because all you have to do is get to old business and say, is there any old business? No. Okay, what's the next thing? And usually you have old business before new business.
Okay. Tom?
Yeah, I would say it should be a standing item as the first item of council matters.
First item, meaning where on the agenda?
Right now, your GCAP is 7A. I think in the future, we could insert 7A as old business, if any.
Okay.
The reason my thinking there is that if people are coming back to follow up on something, we shouldn't make them wait till the end of the meeting. We should get it other way right, and it's still a council matter.
Right, and that's why I wanted it even higher, but I'm
we
fine.
We have a couple of items under council matters tonight that are old business as well.
Well, I'm fine with putting it in 7A as the first item under council matters. Should we have a vote on that? Can we make a motion on it?
8A.
What's that?
7A? Never mind.
It's 7. It's okay. So
tonight, if you want to take it as, I don't know if we need to make it tonight to 7A, but we could do it as the start of council matters tonight.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And I have 2 other minor changes in the telecommunications report. I want to talk about the broadband service in Gualala. And under GCAP, I want to mention that letter that we got and a meeting I attended as well.
Okay. So those are amendments to the agenda, or are those just going to be under those committee reports?
Yes.
Okay. Any other changes or amendments to tonight's agenda?
I have one question. I want clarification on the Chasey CDP. Expand an existing upper deck 560 square feet by 1,294 square feet. That's not a measurement.
Out of order?
But Melissa, we'll be getting to that in a while here. We've
Oh,
got.
I thought having it correct on the agenda was what we were talking about. Never mind. I will talk about it then.
Well, we'll address it at that point. How's that?
Okay.
Okay. So we want to get to law enforcement because the sheriff is standing by here, and we want to get to public input on non-agenda items. But first,
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
as amended, do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay. So roll call: Melissa,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Robert is an aye. Okay, so we have our approved amended agenda for tonight. Public, whoever's out there, public input on non-agenda items, and we limit that to 3 minutes. Other than if you need a little bit more, we'll usually give you a little bit more. Okay, anybody out there in the public that would like to speak? Are we getting any hand raising or chats or anything from anybody?
I don't see anything.
Okay. So we will close that part of our meeting, the public input part, and we'll move on to our law enforcement report. Every 3 months, we usually have a sheriff's forum. And being that we're on these virtual meetings now, we've had one back 3 months ago. And every month we have a law enforcement report, but tonight we'll have them combined, law enforcement report and our sheriff's forum, of which when we were always in the community center, we'd have lots of people attending our meetings when we had the sheriff's forum. So you have the floor, Sheriff Matt Kendall.
Thank you, and I appreciate being able to be here this evening. These Zoom meetings are a little clunky and cumbersome, I understand that, but we seem to be getting better at them.
Yeah.
I have with me the Coastal Lieutenant. Lieutenant Mike Digert is the Coastal Commander. North and South Coast is all one big coastline. So he's with me this evening, and he can get kind of down into the nitty-gritty details of what's going on. I take a larger overview of things and kind of point the direction that I want the ship to turn. And then fellas like Mike, they gather provisions and put enough guys on it to start rowing, and we get there. So the current issues that we're facing, of course, as always, is personnel, but a big portion of the problem with that was the police academies being shut down. We've got 4 in the police academy right now. They opened back up. COVID shutting them down it upset the apple cart a little bit, but we're going to have 2 deputies graduating in October and 2 in December. And so we should be looking a little better. Currently throughout the county, we're facing a lot of different issues that when we see them coming, we work our best to get ahead of them. We see that the state of California is going to be releasing about 17,000 state prison inmates. This is coming at a time where we've been facing a lot of issues with drug usage, drug overdoses, and things like that. And the price of drugs is beginning to skyrocket because a lot of the smuggling lines have been disrupted by COVID. A lot of different shelter-in-place orders and borders being shut down, things like that have disrupted a lot of those. And one of the things that we're seeing, instead of heroin, we're getting a lot more fentanyl and everything, and that's what's causing the overdoses. Currently, our overdoses are up roughly, it was 25% 2 months ago, it's looking more like 30% now. Suicides, we're on track to be up about 40% in Mendocino County. So those are very concerning things. We're working on the mental health dual response. We made it through the board on Tuesday. They have voted to be able to take some Measure B funds and put the mental health worker in the car with the deputy. The biggest piece of news on that is that we will now be taking a proactive response as opposed to a reactive response. And for me, I always like to talk about the tools that we bring to the party, you know, and basically when a deputy sheriff shows up to a person in crisis, they have to be absolutely in crisis. They have to be a danger to themselves, a danger to someone else, or gravely disabled. If we show up prior to that, we have no tools to deal with it. However, if we start showing up with a mental health clinician who has a great big bag of tools, we can get that dealt with before it becomes a crisis. And I always like to say, you know, there are things, a lot of things that we pay for them now or we pay for them later, but later always comes with interest. And a little bit of prevention can save lives, it can save money, it can save time, and it can keep us on the jobs that we need to be on, and that's public safety. As the releases happen, I've done just a really quick sampling of what has gotten out of prison so far. And it appears that about 70% of the people who are being released have a drug or alcohol addiction to begin with. And then most of their crimes were property crimes like burglary, car theft, things like that. Now, we're being told that no violent offenders will be released, and that is partially true. On their last offense, they cannot be a violent offender, but they may have a rap sheet as long as you're armed for nothing but violence. However, if the last offense was they stole a car, they aren't considered to be a violent offender for this release. So it's kind of the perfect storm for burglaries and robberies to go through the roof, because we're concerned that when they get out, drugs are going to be a lot more expensive and a lot harder to find, and so they've got to be able to pay for them somehow. We're taking a very proactive response to this. We're going to begin doing that while you're away program. We're going to be, well, Lieutenant Dygert has already instituted some programs where we've had some mail theft and things like that, because it's identity theft that they're actually going after. When someone breaks into your mailbox, to be honest with you, the package that you received through the US mail, that's kind of gravy. They'll take that package, but what they're looking for are personal identifiers. It's social security numbers, it's driver's license numbers, it's you know, your full name and your birthday. And that information gets sold on the dark web, and so it's a really lucrative crime right now. And so Lieutenant Dygert has instituted a couple of programs where we are using some pretty sophisticated gear and things so that we can put a good surveillance on things. And money is always tight with us. Currently, we can put surveillance on a house or on a package for about $18 a month, which is the way that I choose to do things, because I don't think that I could put a deputy sheriff on that surveillance for 15 minutes for $18. And so we're constantly trying to look at these things where we can get the biggest bang for our buck. We're seeing a lot of changes in legislation in the state of California as we are across the nation. And we have to remember that no matter what we do, every enforcement action has to be justified. And we have to have a measured response. Responding to whatever we're responding to, we've got to have the appropriate response for what is going on at the moment. And, you know, a lot of times, especially dealing with mental health issues and homeless issues and things like that, our responses aren't measured because we don't have that big bag of tools. I can tell you, as a very young guy, I worked in agriculture. I worked farming and ranching. And when the Jeep or the tractor broke down a long ways from home and all that I had was some baling wire and a flat rock and a bent screwdriver, I could fix it. I could get it home, but that's what I had there. And when I got it back to the barn, I had more tools and I could fix it correctly. But we're not talking about a 1955 tractor. We're talking about human beings. And so we can't expect to fix things with baling wire, a bent screwdriver, and a flat rock and have it be okay. We've got to work hard to make sure that the right people show up and we begin providing the services that we are all paying for. And a lot of times, if we don't, we have some people out there in that realm where they're a little more vulnerable. you and I, we're all paying for these services with our taxes. If those people sit out in the brush and nobody knows about them, it's like we spent, you know, we bought 5 gallons of gasoline just to pour it down the drain. We're paying for it. These services need to be used. They need to be utilized, and we got to get them in the right place. And so I think we're going in the right direction in that. We have a excessive heat warning coming for Mendocino County from September 5th through September 11th. I'm certain that that is going to drive up a lot of people on the coast on an already busy weekend. And so we're ramping up patrols over there, making sure that we can keep it under control. As far as the COVID and things go, Lieutenant Diger can probably speak much better to that than what I can, because he's been keeping the most stats on it. And he briefed me Monday that our calls for service and our contacts, which were 12 to 15 a day, dropped down to about, what was it, 7?
Yeah, it was a 7 in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it was 7 in 14 days. And so the information that's going out is going out in a much better form. That combined with the fact that now that almost all of the health orders across the state are uniform, we aren't running into people who are saying, you know, I left Shasta County and I didn't check the internet for every county that I went through to see what the health orders are. So uniformity is helping us. And the other thing is that masking really truly is becoming like a restaurant worker washing their hands before they return to work. It's getting to be old hat. And the people that we were having the most troubles with were the young people, because they can't seem to remember to put on their jacket before they go out in the rain. However, over the last couple of weeks, we've seen the young people being more ambassadors for the masking. And it's just, I'm sure that there's, you know, with school starting back up and it being in Zoom, they're in their social realms going through the internet, and they're all in agreement. Let's mask up, let's do this, let's be a part of something good. So I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Digert real quick, and he can just discuss a couple of his observations and the direction that things are going over on the coast.
How you doing, everybody? Thanks for having me. Basically, what I'm trying to do over there right now is to get my deputies to get down there into the Gualala, Point Arena, Manchester areas, South Coast areas, at a more consistent basis. So I hope in the next months and weeks to come and days to come, you'll start seeing a little bit more of us. It's going to be, like I said, it'll be spotty at times until we get the rank and file built up to where I can consistently send somebody down there. So it's going to be, you should start seeing a lot more of us down there. And then obviously we're going to start instituting those the technology programs to help us with mail theft. Hopefully, we're going to be checking those areas down there to see how that works down there. And so I'm hoping with that, it'll be some things that we can curtail some of this thefts that we have and some of the problems we have down there in South Coast, especially with just coverage. Especially with the biggest issue I see right now, getting people down there too, is we have all that road construction right now. Doesn't affect us at night so much, but it definitely did today. It's definitely a big delay. So it's very important for me to get at least 2 deputies down there. So if we do have an emergency, we're not delayed by traffic construction on the road.
And then Mike's crew, in the last month, we were working one of those mail theft rings, and sure enough, we caught them right there in Irish Beach, but they had mail and things that were stolen all the way
from Willits to...
Yeah, Willits and all the way to Sebastopol.
Oh yeah, that's right. They started in Sebastopol and eventually made it all the way up here.
And it looked like they were just going on a loop from Sebastopol down, up the 101 over Highway 20 and then coming back down 1 to Sebastopol. So it was just one great big loop looking for rural mailboxes. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Public? Is the public out there have any questions?
Good to know you're going to be down here more.
Well, with that heat wave, I guarantee you're going to be seeing a lot more of me. I was down there a couple of times last week, and my wife had to call me and bribe me home with apple pie.
Well, it's going to be cool down on the coast, but up where I live, it's going to be 90, 95 on the ridge. So
Well-
I guess you're not going to be trolling up here.
The concern with that also for us is people think about the coast and that microclimate not being flammable. Well, baloney, it is flammable. And it seems like when we get a bad fire on the coast, it comes later in the year. Years ago, we had one up around Westport in December, and it burned for months. And, you know, with some of the coastal winds and things like that, we can get up into those microclimates up in the banana belt where we could have a serious fire. And so I'm hoping that, especially during this holiday weekend, we've got enough patrols out there and telling people to be careful. Don't do this, don't do that, because people tend to think when you get to the coast, oh, it's okay, there won't be a fire here. There are fires, and at times they're absolutely awful.
And we have had cold weather here. We've had fog in here for 4 days, and it hasn't gotten up above like 59 degrees, and it dips down to 42, 45 in the evening. If you're camping on the beach, baby, you're cold.
Yeah.
So if you start a fire, especially on Mill Bend, and you're close to the bushes there, that they saw like 7 fires around there, it'll take out all of Gualala.
Well, it wasn't all that long ago that almost all the elk burned down to the ground back in the 50s. So, you know, it's a big concern. Things can get out of hand there quickly, and people just don't think that things will burn on the coast, but they absolutely do.
Yeah, if we get a heat wave with wind blowing from the east, you know, you just have to look at the Meyer fire a couple of weeks ago. If you've driven down Highway 1, it's blocked on both sides of the road, and that happened overnight.
Yeah.
Salt Point fire back in the 90s, I remember when that broke out, and that was a nasty one. And we still see the residue of that today. The last week,
fire.
when they had the fires last couple of weeks east of here, there were 2 nights where the wind started off from the northwest, as it usually comes, but it shifted around to the east at about 2 or 3 in the morning, down to the southeast at about 4 or 5, and then just went 24 hours around the clock, came back around to the northwest, and then they did the same thing the next night. And I was on high alert, worried that we'd see flames coming over the top of the hills.
Well, we're beginning to see what my father saw as a fireman in the 1970s and 80s with the Santa Ana winds. We're getting Southern California weather in Northern California.
Yeah, exactly so.
We simply haven't seen it before. I've spoke with my father about this, and he said this is exactly what burned up Big Sur. This is exactly what was burning up Southern California in the late 70s and early 80s when I was a boy. So anyway, let's all hang in there.
Yeah. And anybody from the public still out there that would like to ask the sheriff some questions? Otherwise, we'll go to the rest of the council members.
I'll just say, Sheriff, thanks for being with us tonight, and I'll see you again on Tuesday night at our GMAC Town Hall on COVID on the South Coast. Looking forward to having you and Warren Galletti and Barbara Patel from RCMS at that meeting. I'm going to start putting up the public notices tomorrow. It's already on the radio and in the paper.
Okay, well, I beat Warren in a goat milking contest years ago. I want to be able to rub it in a little more.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sheriff?
Yeah.
When you talk about mail theft, are you also referring to like later on in the year here when it gets to be election time that people could potentially steal mailed
ballots
ballots?
and things like that, and that's always a concern. There are so many things that become an issue when somebody gets into your mailbox, and you know, the best thing that we can do is, if you are not going to be home, have somebody pick up your mail every day.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, I think Mary just lost her her connection there.
Mary looks like she's on. Mary?
Yeah, she's
Melissa?
Froze up.
Something happened. Yeah, she's gone now. Oh boy.
I'm still there.
Okay. Anybody else have a question for the sheriff? Doesn't sound like it. So that was a shorter sheriff's forum. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Okay.
Mike and I have got just a couple of things to discuss. We're going to log off, and then I'll see
Okay.
you next week.
Thanks very much. Okay.
Thanks, Lieutenant, for coming along too.
Yeah, Lieutenant.
Thank
Okay.
you.
We'll see
Thanks.
you around.
Looking forward to meeting you guys down the road here.
Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye. Okay. Shall we move on to Number 5, the CDP 2020-0017 Chasey. It's located at 30230 South Highway 1. It's a standard coastal development permit to install a wood fire pizza oven, expand an existing upper deck. It says 560 square feet by 1,294 square feet, but let's discuss that afterwards here. Construct a new 526 square foot lower deck and install downcast sconce lighting. So Melissa brought this up earlier, but what is, first of all, I see Kathleen online. Is that correct? 560 square feet by 1,294 square feet.
Not a number.
From 560 to 1294.
Okay.
That makes more sense.
Thank you, Melissa.
Okay, so that got translated somehow when we put it on the agenda. Okay, or I don't know what it looks like online, but I'd have to look.
In addition, Robert,
Yeah.
construct a new 526 square feet is actually 536 square feet to be perfect.
536 square feet, okay. Okay, so we had some discussion about this, visiting this site last month, but it was decided that Dawn and I would visit the site. So we went out to do a site visit at the Chasey residence, and I guess I'll start, Dawn. I'm sorry, I just started going here, but I didn't notice anything all that much out of the ordinary from many CDPs I've seen over the years. Although the project has already begun with most of the deck post footings already poured and set into the ground, the application looks pretty much straightforward to me. I have some more things to say, but Don, would you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with you, Robert. I reviewed the CDP a bit before we went out there, and it looks like Kathleen and Lloyd have, done all the appropriate steps and taken the measures they needed to take in order to build this to specs. So I didn't notice anything untoward about it. So I think it's fair.
It's a low to the ground deck, council members, in case you didn't have a chance to, well, you probably didn't see the site, but I at first, from the drawings, thought it was an upper level deck, but I was quickly corrected on that once I was out at the site. There's an existing deck and it's being added on to, basically. It's well set back. It's an acre parcel and it's well set back from the ocean bluff. This is an oceanfront property surrounded on all sides by cypress tree hedgerow, and then in front it's open ocean view. So it doesn't really affect anybody that I can see. It's well set back, like I said. There's a pizza oven addition on the north end of the deck that looks to be fine, and the downcast lighting also shouldn't be of concern in my opinion. So.
Yeah, Robert, also perhaps mention the fact that the deck is really just going over an existing grassy area. Just
right. Mm-hmm.
Doesn't appear to be any type of special native plants that it's disturbing or anything, as far as I can tell.
So any other council members want to weigh in or have any questions on this? Melissa, Tom? We usually, actually, no. Let me take a step back. I mean, when we're in session in the community center, we usually like to hear from the applicant first, and I completely skipped that over. But these are different times. These are different way of handling business. But if Kathleen, since she's online, wants to say anything about the project, please do, Kathleen.
Well, I think you reviewed it correctly. It's a 2-level deck, 1-level expansion, and then a lower deck that's a couple feet off the ground. So we've had the full botanical, so there's no native plants or listed plants that are a problem. We have dotted the I's and crossed the T's. It's been a long process.
Okay, good, thanks. Melissa?
No, it sounds all straightforward now that I know that strange number makes sense.
Okay. Tom?
No questions.
Okay, can somebody make a motion as to our advisory recommendation on the CDP?
I'll move that we recommend to approve the CDP.
Okay, I was there at the site. I'll second that motion. Can we have a vote? Melissa?
Yay.
Aye. Don?
Aye.
Okay.
Yay, pizza. Sorry.
Don?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And Robert is an aye. Who should write the letter? Don, you or I?
I mean, it's a pretty simple letter, right? I mean, it's nothing.
Right. So,
Yeah, I can, if
probably,
you're pretty busy, then I can write it.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've handled that. On to water moratorium, number 6, and other water issues. As has been,
May I have a second?
yeah, sure, go ahead.
Mary has just emailed me and said she was cut off from the meeting and cannot reconnect. She asked me to call her if you'd excuse me for a minute, but that deletes the quorum. So I'm going to put myself on mute and continue to listen, but I'm here, okay?
Okay. Go ahead and help Mary get back on. We can take a slight moment here, but you received, I sent out, I'm trying to keep up on all the water issues. As you know, we're in a drought year and we have very low flows on our main water source for the town, which is the North Fork of the Gualala River, well number 4. And we keep this agenda item on our agendas now for years, it seems like, for a decade plus. It's just to keep it in the forefront of everybody's consciousness that we have a kind of a volatile water source during drought years especially. And you can see from the latest water flow figures from the USGS website that it's just very historically low, the flows. And we, in addition to just getting the word out like the North Gualala Water Company does on their website, we have to think conserve. We as one species need the water, but there's other living species in the river that need water also, and that's the fingerlings, the fish, the other wildlife, and yet we're not able to meet the bypass flow requirements during these low flow times of the year, which seem to be longer and longer. Quarter of a year to 3 to 4 months now, it seems like we tend to have these low flows, sometimes even in the off season when the bypass flow requirements are higher. So I just like to see that brought to everybody's attention every month, and hopefully we get some more news from the water company as to what they are accomplishing on water source and on meeting these bypass flow requirements. We can do all the praying we want for rain, but we've got to deal with what's happening in our world right now, and that's drought and climate change. So that's what I want to say on that agenda item. Checking if Tom's back or if Mary's back. Anybody else want to comment on that agenda item?
Yeah, Robert, I really agree with what you said pretty much. I think this is a very critical issue for our community, our source of water. And also not only, of course, the water for human consumption here, but this water is a valuable habitat for certain species that exist, you know, in the environment around us. And if we deplete, if through our use, we completely deplete the water source somehow, that not only affects us, but it affects all these other species who are also dependent on the water. And yes, we are in a very serious situation regarding climate change. And this is likely to continue. So the question is, what can be done and what will be done, what should be done in order to reduce the amount of water that we take out of the river, the North Fork of the Gualala River, for human consumption during these very low flow periods. It's one thing to take water out of the river or from near the river, which essentially is from the river. It's one thing to do that in the winter when there are high flows and there's plenty of water. As a matter of fact, most all the water just sweeps out to the sea. So there's an excess of water during those periods of the year. But that's not the case, of course, in the summer. So one solution in my mind, and I'm certainly not an expert in this matter, but is to provide for a much greater storage of water supplies during the periods of high flow, such that during the periods of very low flow, which is what we're in now, we don't have to tap into the river because we've stored enough to tide us through the very dry periods. That's the area that I don't see us working on. And to me, that is a long-term solution. I think we have to be thinking about that. Maybe it's a problem with how the local water company is structured and what they can do on their own, since it is a private water company, and that's very different from a public water company, which it seems like most of the people use in California. All of the Bay Area, they're public water companies, but not up here. So, you know, what difference does that make? I mean, there are a lot of issues I think this opens up that needs to be looked at. I'm sure some of them have been reviewed, but maybe it's time we start to seriously look at this and see what could be done on a long-term basis to really reduce our dependency on the North Fork of the Gualala River during these very dry periods when other species needs this water as well.
Done. Any other comments under the water moratorium and water issues that we're facing?
No.
Melissa? No. Tom?
I want to second the concerns that Robert and Don have expressed here. I want to second your concerns. I hear you. I agree with you. I think we lack the expertise to really handle this properly. Nor am I positive that this is our jurisdiction per se. We're an advisory council. I think we certainly have the obligation to weigh in on this and to monitor it. But perhaps one of the services we could perform here is helping to arrange a public forum on this, including state and local water experts, the people from the Gualala Water Company, and Friends of the River and other environmental interests, and really have maybe a day-long seminar like we had for Earth Day at the community center, but have it online and get into some of these subjects in some depth so that we're a little better versed. It's certainly a matter of concern. There's public safety issues here. There's public health issues here. There's development issues here that affect housing and many other elements and the very livelihood of our businesses in our town. So it's a critical issue. I can't add much to what you guys said, but I just don't think this is the right forum here tonight to go through this in detail, and maybe we should set up either a committee to look at this on an ongoing basis and instead of just having a monthly report, or have that committee work on setting up a day-long study group on this that involves experts from around the state.
I tend to agree with what you just said, Tom. It's going to need addressing here in more depth than we've done in the past decade plus. It's really getting to be in the forefront, and somebody needs to take the lead on it. As you said, we've got a private water company, and I don't get the feeling that they're being as transparent with the community as they could be with regards to these issues, and I think we need to know more.
I don't have any feelings on that one way or the other. I would hope that they're being fully transparent. However, I agree with what Don said, that a public agency has much greater latitude in dealing with water issues and many more resources. And that's something I think we should look at. There's been quiet talk for quite a while of having a second water company, or of having a transition in ownership. I don't know. I'm not advocating those ideas. I don't know if they're good ideas, but I'd certainly like to have people talk about them in public and hear the pros and cons of various issues, as well as what we're going to do long-term as a community, because this year to year going into the global warming era is not working out for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, personally, I wasn't expecting to have any great long discussion on this issue tonight, just sort of raise some of these issues that I think we know are critical, that we're going to have to face in the future. So let's start looking into this. Let's maybe have a forum of some sort, get the experts involved who know a lot more about what possible solutions there may be for a community and environment like we live in. So yeah, let's not have this long talk.
Okay.
I'd like to hear if Melissa has anything to add to this, or any member of the public that's with us.
Sure.
The only thing I have to add is that the entire time I've been on this committee, is if this gets discussed for any more than 5 minutes, people just get the satisfaction of giving their opinion and stating what they feel, and it just wastes time, because we're not going to change the water moratorium right now. Not tonight. We're not going to change it.
Okay,
would you support having a forum on this, Melissa?
Let's talk about that.
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely. That sounds like something more than just going on and on. Yeah, we have a moratorium. No, I don't like it. No, we need to change it. Let's do this. Let's do that. And nothing happens.
Well, if we have a water forum, we should probably invite our local water company, along with the representatives that Don and Tom were alluding to. If we can get them to all come on a virtual meeting forum on this matter. You want me to look into that for this coming month? I mean, it's pertinent right now. This is when we're all thinking about water issues. We're on mandatory conservation right now through our local water company. Maybe rationing or something else has to happen. I don't know. Maybe our local community services district has some say in this matter. We need to go a step further, because we aren't really addressing the issue as much as we should, I feel.
In answer to your question, Robert, I would be delighted if you would take the lead on this, given your expertise and experience with all that. And if you need help, Don, would you want to help him on that? I'm a little jammed myself.
Yeah, okay, sure, I could. I mean, if basically our charge is to sort of put together a forum, a special Zoom meeting or something with the stakeholders, appropriate players that could bring some expertise to the subject that we us
don't
necessarily have, but we all realize that it's a real problem, but we don't necessarily have the solution. So let's open this up. Let's get some expertise. Let's see what people can come up with.
Okay. So Don and I, if you're still in agreement, Don, we'll work on this, okay?
Okay, that's fine. Should we set up an ad hoc committee or something, or what?
We could, yeah. Rather than have it listed as we do on the agenda, we could have it under council matters. And it could be, what would we call it?
Water committee.
Ad hoc committee on water resources.
That's fine. Ad hoc committee.
That sounds, water committee on, ad hoc water committee on water sources, on water issues or something. What did you say there?
Resources.
Sources. Yeah.
Water resources ad hoc committee. Does that sound okay?
That's fine.
Or vice
Sounds
versa.
good.
Okay, so we'll, that's a slight change on our agenda. Should we vote on that? Should we make a motion on that?
How does it change the agenda?
I'll make a, if I actually, Mr. Chairman, you can appoint committees, so I think you should go ahead and
Right. Okay,
appoint
but
that
we
one.
we talked about earlier in the meeting that if we make any change, we should vote on it. But we'll add it to our current committee roster, and it'll be the Water Resources Ad Hoc Committee, Hess and Youngling. Okay.
That's fine.
Good.
Okay. I think we've accomplished something there on this agenda item. Okay, then having done that, let's move on to number 7. I think we were going to have 7A was going to be, as we amended the agenda, was going to be old business, correct?
Correct.
And that was with reference to the Graffin CDP and somebody following up with the county to write a letter. And the other item was the River Coast Land Conservancy letter regarding the gate down at Mill Bend. So I'll write one of the letters if somebody else writes the other letter, or do we want to have some further discussion on that at the moment?
Well, regarding the letter for the gate at Mill Bend, my understanding is we were going to receive something from RCLC related to that letter.
Like a sample letter or something, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, as Kathleen, you're still here. Good.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Kathleen, go ahead.
Were you going to send?
So if you want, I will write the sample letter for you. But just so we're clear, so we can get it in the next week, what we need it to say is GMAC supports the gate at Highway 1 for the Mill Bend Kayak Road.
GMAC supports gate at Highway.
More color, but just to make sure you guys know what you're.
That's the basic, yeah. Okay, say that once again. GMAC supports the gate at Highway 1 for kayak. What did you say on that?
Well, no, I'm going to give you more color on it because it's
Okay.
a vehicle gate. But so it's a vehicle gate that will open and close with the Sonoma County Regional Parks, just like.
Right. Mhm.
And then it'll always have a pedestrian access that's open.
Kathleen, why don't you send that to me, okay? And I'll put it on letterhead of GMAC and circulate it, and then we'll get it going, okay?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, and then so we need somebody to do the other letter for Janine and Craig Graffin. Anybody willing to do that?
I don't know anything about that issue, but regarding the Mill Bend letter,
Oh, okay.
I would think we may need a motion to support GMAC sending that letter.
Did we not have that motion at our last month's meeting?
We did. We approved that last month, and it was going to be, Sharon was going to write the letter after consulting with Kathleen. So I
But
think
that didn't happen.
if
Yeah.
Kathleen's going to give you a draft letter, I think you can go from there.
Okay,
If we already passed that, yeah, we don't.
right, right. So back to the Graffins, who would like to write that letter? And my suggestion would be maybe to even include the correspondence that we received from the Graffins since the August 6th meeting. The emails that I circulated amongst you all, maybe include that with a letter that we write to the county. Can Melissa or Tom, or you're doing another letter here, Don, right? Can somebody else do that letter?
I'm just referring back to our minutes from last,
Because we had approved that also, I believe.
moved by Tracy, seconded by Meyer, carried 6-0. 1 recusal for Youngling. No
Right.
drilling should be allowed before biological and botanical studies are done. It doesn't sound to me like that's a reasonable requirement given what Mr. Graffin said today. So
Okay.
I feel a little uncomfortable writing a letter on the basis of that, motion.
Mhm.
We do have an option under the agenda to change our votes at this meeting.
It's a little too late to change our votes. Why don't we just have another walk-see?
We were contemplating that also.
That's another option. Would you want to go out there, Melissa?
If I can find it, it looks like the kind of place I can walk through. I don't see a road. I have a little tiny sports car. I can't go most places.
There's a pretty well marked trail on the parcel. I've walked it before the parcel is for sale, so I've walked it before. But I can't go out there myself as far as a GMAC member.
Why is that, Robert?
I feel a conflict. I had to recuse myself on the hearing last month, and I have other financial interests with the Graffins, so that's why I recuse myself.
I see. Well, it's just a walkthrough. I mean, I could probably do that as well. Melissa wants to do that.
If I can find it, if I can get there in like a little tiny sports car, I'll do it.
Well, it's right adjacent to Highway 1. You just have to find a parking space along Highway 1 in order to walk it. So it's not, I can help you find it, Melissa. I can do that much.
I can probably find it. It's just being able to park.
Yeah.
Because I can't go over a high edge.
Right.
If there's not a proper parking place, I can't go there.
We'll help you with that. So are we looking to re-walk and revisit the site? Is that what I think Tom suggested, right?
Well, I did, and I think Don suggested that if we re-walk it means that we'll have to come back to this next month to vote on it again. We have a motion that was approved last month suggesting action. We could modify the motion or re-walk it or do something else. I'm totally open on this. But looking at the notes in the minutes, it just doesn't sound like the information that we had from our walkers matches what the Graffins are saying. And I think it deserves a second look based on their protest.
Sounds like they walked the wrong lot.
Yeah, I think it would be great if you guys went out there and walked it again and we brought it back again next month.
Well,
shouldn't we let oh, go ahead, Don, sorry.
Do we need 2 people to walk it, or is just one person, Melissa, enough? I mean, we're down to 4 council members now, so we're kind of spread thin.
Another option is we could amend the motion from last month and authorize whoever goes and visits the property now to verify the information of our walkers or the Graffins and write a letter on the council's behalf. The letter is basically an approval, but it says no drilling should be allowed before biological and botanical studies are gone. Maybe it's just that we approve on the recommendation that the county review it for the need for biological and botanical studies. And not require them, that basically just suggest that the county look at that, which they do anyway.
Because it didn't sound like they had one done because they were objecting to doing one.
I shouldn't weigh in on this, but I think somebody should write a letter to the county that we're planning on revisiting the parcel.
Well, another point is if Mr. Youngling has to recuse himself on this matter, we can't vote anything this meeting. And next meeting, we can't vote anything unless we have a new council member.
Right.
So I think Mr. Hess and Ms. Finley can go out, review the property, review our notes, and write the letter. That's my suggestion.
And our administrative secretary, should she forward the Graffin's correspondence is what I'm asking.
I think the Graffin's correspondence should be attached to any letter that Don and Melissa write.
Okay.
If there are 4 members attending the meeting, which is a quorum, then you can vote on it with 3 members voting and 1 member saying, I recuse myself. Because you have a quorum and there are 4 members and you can discuss it, but only 3 members can vote. That's okay because you have a quorum and 1 says that they have to recuse.
Have to recuse themselves. Okay, because we're 4 out of 7. Is that what you're getting at, Mary? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there, Monday. Okay, the question is, if 1 member recuses themselves.
Yeah, I don't think you have a majority of the council voting in favor of it. I think the rule is.
Matter if the majority votes.
As I remember, Mary, when the Supreme Court was down a member, they needed more votes.
They did, because
You're not down a member. You have a member there. He's just recused himself. He can vote on all the rest of it, and it's fine.
We'll have to
But
check
if he
on that with the county
recuses
council's
himself, you
office.
still have a quorum. You start with a quorum, you end with a quorum, just because somebody, what if he votes abstention? You know, it's the same. I don't choose to vote. I'm here.
I would like to have that review.
Said no, I'm not going to weigh in on this issue. I have to recuse myself. You still have a quorum.
Yes, I know you have a
Three members
quorum.
are gonna vote on it because
You have a quorum, but you don't have a majority.
But it doesn't matter about a majority vote. If only 1 person votes and and 3 people recuse themselves and only 1 person votes, you still have a quorum.
You have a quorum, but you can't vote. You can't approve anything.
Starting with a quorum of 4.
All right. Can we basically review that with the county council's office to find out if we need 4 votes to approve something?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Call the county council and see what happens.
I'm just concerned about our tardiness on getting the county something on this CDPs. Can we at least write them a letter that we are still further reviewing it?
The council voted last month to write a letter. I think Don and Melissa would just be going out to verify the information before they write the letter.
Okay. That sounds good, Tom.
That okay with everybody?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay. If you need any help finding the piece, I can help there. Okay. Should we move on?
Please.
Okay. We're not doing too bad timing wise. It's the first time I've looked at the clock and we're looking at about 7:30, right? 7:35. So, okay. We go on to our normal 7A, which is the GCAP ad hoc committee. And we have town hall notifications and delay. That's Tom and I on this committee. Tom, you got the floor.
I think everybody's had a chance to review the letter that we've posted on our website, and I've written about in an article for the Lighthouse Peddler. On the 8th of August, following our August meeting, Robert and I had a conversation with MCOG and Caltrans, Frank Demling and Nephili Barrett, about the upcoming town hall. And we discovered that they were planning to send notifications of the town hall to every of the 2,286 lots on the Sea Ranch, whether it be a renter, owner, absentee, present, lot owner, whatever, but only to those within a mile of the highway project in Gualala, which was, I should say that this was a tentative plan. Frank mentioned several times this wasn't nailed down. They're still discussing it, and I think that's still the state. However, in our discussion, we realized that they were not going to include anybody north of Gualala or on the ridge, which is more than a mile from the project. We expressed concern about this during the call, asking a number of times And by the way, I see we have Mr. Schumacher and Mr. Wasserman from Point Arena on the call tonight. And I'd be interested to hear their comments on this in a moment. But Robert and I, during the course of about a 45-minute discussion, or maybe an hour on just this point, said, you know, well, sure, Sea Ranch uses us as a service community, but they also have restaurants, a golf course, a hardware store, you know, 3 rec centers, administrative offices. There's a store just south of there, you know, and then you look at Anchor Bay. Anchor Bay has a market, not quite the size of our supermarkets. Most of the people in Anchor Bay would come down here to do their shopping, and most of the people in Point Arena, for that matter, they have the Co-op, great store, but most of the folks there come down to do their big shopping down in Gualala. And people in Annapolis, what about that? That's even closer than the end of Sea Ranch. So we asked a lot of questions about this, and we said, you know, we certainly don't feel comfortable with excluding the people up on the ridge, Ocean Ridge Drive and those neighborhoods. It's definitely part of Gualala. What about the top of Packwoods Road and Old Stage Road? And, you know, the more we talked about it, the more concerns came up. So the day after the call, Robert and I drafted the letter expressing our concerns, and not only about that, but about the manner in which the survey is conducted and the questions that are asked, and the potential to manipulate the results through any sort of marketing efforts that could send the link out to mass email lists and that sort of thing. And then we figured, our thinking was that the people who should have the most say about the highway are the people who live here, work here, drive their kids to work, use the highway regularly, and are going to see it the most, are going to be using it the most, and have their lives on the line when they drive down the road on it or walk along the side. So that was our thinking. We didn't insist on anything, but we asked all that to be considered. On the 28th, I checked in with Frank, and he said that the matter was still under review, but the town hall had been pushed off until October 28th from September 14th. So that's it. We thought we'd bring it up tonight. It was kind of a call of it. I'd say, you know, I don't want to speak for Robert, but I was pretty concerned about what I heard and wanted to bring it to the council's attention and wanted to get it out to the public so that they could understand what the discussion's about. Again, I don't want to be unfair to Caltrans or MCOG on this. This matter is under consideration, and hopefully they'll review this matter.
Right.
So, Robert, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, yeah, we were, like you've been saying, we were curious about their outreach program this year, how they were going to conduct that. And when we, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we heard that they were covering about a mile north of Gualala, that's when we started raising a bunch of questions. How can, for instance, all of the Sea Ranch be included, which is a 10-mile stretch of the coastline, and it's in Sonoma County. And here we're only including about a mile north of the Gualala River Bridge as far as Gualala is concerned, when really we've got people that live up on the ridge, that's 3 miles inland, roughly, the Ridge Road. And then we've got lots of folks that live north of Gualala, Anchor Bay. Anchor Bay is part of Gualala, in essence. It's a 9544. That's when we got into the zip code discussion about, and then even the greater area. Gualala is considered kind of the hub of the whole southern Mendocino County coast, northern Sonoma County coast. Annapolis came up, even as far down as Timber Cove, because a lot of those people come up this way, even as far up as Manchester and Point Arena, because people do tend to do some of their bigger shopping here. Sure, Manchester has a wonderful big store where they kind of take care of groceries and hardware and everything else there, but a lot of people do rely on coming down to Gualala because it has a lot of everything that people need. So we really wanted to know more about the outreach program that Caltrans was planning to do this year, if they could include multiple zip codes, and it seemed like it would be a fairer process. So as Tom alluded to, they are still working on that process.
Don, may I share my screen? think Don's with us. Don, may I share my screen?
You should be able to. You're a host as well as I am.
No, I'm disabled. I turned it over to you.
Okay, fine.
I'll just, while he's doing that, I'll just, what was the other thing I was going to mention? It's still disabled.
Should I go on then, Tom?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll share when I can. I just want to show those maps.
I wanted to mention an MCOG ATP grant. It's called the what is it called? The ATP stands for it escapes me at the moment. Anyway, I sent you all a letter that I had, a sample letter that I'd received from MCOG. It's regarding the grant application that MCOG is wishing to complete by the 15th of September. And it's for the construction part of the downtown enhancement, Gualala downtown enhancement project. ATP, I'm just escaping me what that stands for right at the moment, but transportation project. And I sent you a letter that I would like to get your approval on to send on back to MCOG, a letter of support that they should go forward with trying to, with this grant application to seek those funds for the phase, the construction phase. As you know, we've got the grant monies in place for the design and for the acquisition of right-of-way. So this is the next step that we would need in the funding process.
Robert, I'm sorry, may I interrupt you?
Yeah.
I want to talk to that point too, but I do have the maps up. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, we are.
Okay. I just want to finish off this point and see if either of our friends from Point Arena have anything to say on the matter tonight. These are the areas that we suggested as service areas. The upper map here on the right shows what we believe is the Gualala, kind of estimating what we think would be the Gualala town area. And you'll see it, this is Pacific Woods Road here. This is Ocean Ridge Drive over here. And we felt at the very least, the core Gualala area would be defined as this, down to the river and up over the ridge, down a little bit the other side, and then down here. We didn't go this far north. Now on the larger area where, you know, they're talking about including all of Sea Ranch, which comes basically down to here, no, farther down to here. So we suggested that they also include Annapolis, go down to Stewart's Point, come up around Annapolis, over the ridge, all the way up to Manchester as our extended neighborhood. What they were planning to do was to send individual postcards to the people just along Highway 1 here in Gualala. It would be about, I figured about a 1.5 square mile area, maybe a little bit more. I'm not really sure. It wasn't really well defined. It was basically from, they were talking about from Bedrock down to Old Stage Road. Old Stage Road is actually where the project begins. So if they were going to go on a mile, it would go into Sea Ranch. But up north, Bedrock is not a mile from the end of the project. It's maybe a half mile.
Right.
So we were saying, okay, this should be the core area, and this should probably be the area that's the most heavily weighted for opinions. But certainly the extended area could involve our neighbors who have a legitimate claim to, depending on the services in Gualala, and we want to recognize them. And just as we use their towns, and you know, I'm not going to tell Manchester how to design its Main Street or Point Arena, but I'd certainly appreciate it if we got a chance to weigh in when they were making that decision. And I think they deserve a chance to weigh in on ours. So if they're going to consider extended area, we suggested this. If they're going to consider the core area, we suggested something like this. Again, these are under discussion. no decision made, and that's all just pending. We're just bringing it to you for information item basically at this point. And now, you know, if we can, if they're still with us, I'm going to stop sharing here. And I'd just like to see if Mr. Wasserman or Mr. Schumacher have any comments at this point. I guess not. They're both on mute.
It appears so. Okay. So ATP stands for the Active Transportation Program. Okay. I looked that up real quick. It escaped me, but
as it happens, I went to a meeting on this today. Caltrans District 1 had its meeting with to talk about the complete street applications that they're filing. It was listed as an active transportation item, but it was actually complete streets. And it turns out that Caltrans District 1, based in Eureka, for Mendocino County basically for their entire district, they're only submitting one project per county for the active transportation program, for the complete streets program. And they have decided, with the blessing of MCOG, that project this time will be the Covelo project, which they described in detail, and I have to admit, sounded like a very high priority. There have been fatalities along this piece of roadway, and they're talking about building a bike and walkway to bypass the road where those fatalities occurred. It sounded like a very good project. If we filed, the reason they only do one project is not for lack of funds. It is for lack of staff in the District 1 office. So I asked if there were any way that we could help do the applications and complete a second application. And they said, well, you could, but it would be competing with Covelo. And I was told that MCOG does not have any surplus bandwidth for staff. So we would be on our own to submit an application and compete with Covelo. I don't think that's a good course to go. Nafili Barrett also mentioned that a separate ATP grant would be sent in for other projects in Mendocino County, including Gualala. So I was satisfied with that. And I just wanted to bring those updates. During that call, I heard that there are 2 other surveys they're conducting regarding sidewalks and bike paths in the county. I think I was the only one on the call that was not affiliated with a bike group. And they were basically, and when I get more information on how to participate in those surveys, I'll pass it along to other council members and the public. But there's a partner survey which we'd be eligible to comment in, and a public survey in which anybody could go in and comment in, noting risky parts, areas, kind of like the survey we did for Caltrans on Highway 1, but also this is specifically about complete streets and active transportation for walking, biking. So I'll pass that information along when I get it.
Okay, so have all the other council members been able to read the letter of support for MCOG's active transportation program application regarding the Gualala Downtown Streetscape Enhancement Project? Melissa and Don, have you seen that letter that I sent earlier today?
I thought that was fine, Robert.
Okay. Melissa? Is she still on?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, whether we lost Melissa, because I had, there's one person on a phone call with us, but I had.
That's not her.
Yeah, that's what I'm figuring. I had. I renamed.
Oh, she's in the waiting room.
She's a 925. She got dropped somehow.
Yeah, she's in. Okay, she's back.
Melissa? Hello, Melissa?
She's just needs to turn on her audio. Hang on.
Okay.
She is on mute, and Melissa, it's on your end. I can't turn you on. There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, Melissa, we lost you somewhere along the way there. Are you here?
Sort of.
Okay. Well, that's the first time we see
Using her iPad.
video of you. Wow. Okay, well, we were on the GCAP agenda item, and I was asking the council members if they received a copy of that letter of support for MCOG's Active Transportation Program application regarding the downtown streetscape enhancement project. Did you see that letter?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, it was, any way we can put it on the screen, Tom? Should I send it to you, or how do we do that?
Yeah, I don't think I saw it either, Robert.
I may be able to put it on the screen. Just let me find it here.
Oh, great, Don.
Yeah, Don, I'm going to return the host duties to you.
That's great. We've got co-moderators here. Or
Actually, I don't know if I need to.
if Don can get it on the screen, that would be good, because then Melissa and Don.
I can still share screen. You don't have to do anything, Tom.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
I could read it in the meantime if you'd like.
I got it right here. Hold on.
Okay.
We need to get someone on the committee. He's young enough, they don't even need reading glasses.
Really?
You're here. I like to see some young blood on this.
Okay, can everybody see that?
It's a little hard to read even with my reading glasses. Can you boost it up a little? There we go.
Is that better?
Okay,
Yeah.
Melissa and Don, or all of you, let's take another glance at it and read it.
Here, here.
Yeah, it's lacking in a little bit specific there.
True.
I'd like to see separated bike lanes in there.
We could add that.
Maybe in second paragraph before the beginning of the second sentence where currently begins the project will. Maybe we could say with separated bike lanes and sidewalks, this project will improve.
Instead
Okay,
of the project, say what you just said.
Yes, it would say with separated bike lanes and ADA compliant sidewalks, the project will improve.
That's better.
Okay, tell me again where I should add that.
Okay, second paragraph.
Yeah.
The beginning of the second sentence.
The project.
Yeah, where it says the project. Just
Okay.
before that, add a phrase that
No,
says,
replace the project with.
No. It's just before that, add a phrase that says, with separated bike lanes.
In the downtown core, comma, with.
No, downtown core.
No, downtown to core, period.
Period. Okay.
New sentence.
Sentence.
With separated bike lanes and ADA compliant sidewalks, comma.
Got it. Okay.
Then it picks up, the project will improve.
The project will improve traffic flow. Okay, gotcha.
But then
There you go.
at the end, do we still need the for pedestrian and bicycle travel at the end?
Yeah. With those things, the project will improve traffic flow and create a safe and comfortable non-motorized facilities for pedestrian and bicycle travel.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm losing you guys on that one. What paragraph are you in now?
Same thing, just if you add that phrase, Robert, at the beginning of that sentence, that's it.
Right. Okay, the project will improve traffic flow. Oh yeah, that one. Okay. So I'll
You want to read that back?
I'll read it here. After downtown core, I'll be adding with separated bike lanes and ADA compliant sidewalks. The project will improve traffic flow and create safe and comfortable non-motorized facilities for pedestrian and bicycle travel.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll create another copy. I'll edit that one a little bit, and then I'll send you maybe a revised draft, and then I'll sign it and send it off, huh?
Yeah, I think that's fine. We could probably approve that right now if you'll make that change.
Okay, I will make that change. Okay, and then you guys.
Do you, well, if you're being specific, do you want to toss in anything about the plantings? Like Gualala's visual character will also be greatly enhanced by improvements like the plantings along the road.
I like your thinking, Melissa, but this is probably the wrong letter to write that into. This is specifically about the ATP program, and
Okay.
that does not involve plantings
Okay.
or any other element of the project except for sidewalks and bike paths.
Right, non-motorized
Okay.
travel, and it does. Keep in mind, it doesn't take into consideration what the final design is going to be yet or anything. It's just a letter regarding non-motorized grants.
Okay.
Okay, so with you guys' approval, I'll do that. I'll edit it like we've just talked about, and I'll get it off to them. The sooner the better, I think. I mean, they're needing to get this grant done by 9/15, by September 15th.
Correct.
Here, here.
Okay. Anything else under the GCAP ad hoc committee?
Just one more thing.
Okay.
Just wanted to read this letter that I referred to earlier. Let me see if I can find it again. Got a lot of correspondence like this afternoon.
Oh, it's like that every month, it seems like.
It was news to me. Where is this thing?
And that's under this item, Tom?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I'm just gonna hang with me here, gang.
Sure.
Yes, here it is. From Mr. Steve Scully, and I forwarded this to Mary, so she should have a copy of this. It was a note. It isn't addressed, but I gave it to the council. It says, read the ICO article today regarding the recent controversy over street improvements. I've been visiting Gualala since the early 90s and have owned a house on the Sea Ranch since 2000. In the last few years, I have watched Boys Hot Spring area just north of Sonoma go through an amazing renaissance since they added sidewalks, bike lanes, landscaping, turn lanes, and removed highway parking. People can now walk, bike, and drive safely. It's not only considered prettier, it's also been good for business. Seems like if you go slower, you see more stuff to shop. It's a stop and shop. Funny that it works like that. I'm confident that these proposed changes to Gualala would have the same effect, prettier, safer, and good for business. Seems like you have a bit of a battle on this issue, but it's a battle worth winning. Good luck. Steve Scully. So I wanted to pass that along. We've had a lot of controversy on this issue. Again, I am asking the county to substantiate the claim that was attributed to them last year that the loss of on-highway parking would be bad for business. Virtually everybody I've spoken to, every expert, every business person, with the notable exception of 2 or 3 that I can think of, have agreed that we have plenty of off-highway parking and that it would be beneficial to the hospitality and restaurant businesses in particular, but also to retail to shift away from on-highway parking. So that's just something I wanted to add in there to this discussion. It's, I'm obviously battered and bruised by this subject. A year ago, I didn't know anything about Streetscape, and I've gotten to know an awful lot about it in the last year. I do believe that we have an obligation to continue to research this and act with due diligence to try to come up with the best solution for our town after listening to everybody involved, and I do intend to listen to everybody involved, as well as I know Robert does. So I just wanted to pass along those words.
Tom, it's interesting you shared that letter with us, because I don't remember when it was, but it seems like it was years ago, somewhere between 2012 and 2015, that I received a call from somebody over there in the hot springs, Agua Caliente, what else is over there? Number of little towns before you get to Sonoma. And they invited me over as a council member on the local GMAC, and they were wondering what to do to promote this kind of a streetscape plan over there. And so they invited me over. We sat down at a table, we had lunch, we looked at a little bit of the towns there that were, apparently, I mean, I've been through there a couple times now, and they did a beautiful job over there, just like this Stephen gentleman mentions. They created some kind of I don't know if they created a municipal advisory council, but I seem to remember it being called a Hot Springs Association or something. But there was a prime example, not to mention Healdsburg, what they did over there with their roundabout and with their streetscape plan in Healdsburg there, where they're incorporating a railroad track and everything, sidewalks across the roundabout. But two prime examples right there. The Hot Springs area that this Steve Scully mentions, and the Healdsburg situation. So that was good to hear. Thanks.
I just want to emphasize, when Robert and I talk about this thing, we have wide open minds. We listen to everybody. We hear everybody. It's not that if anybody has the impression that we don't, it's not true. We don't know what Caltrans will bring up at the town hall. We did pick up this in our call, that they don't plan to have a debate at this thing. They plan to have a presentation by Caltrans at the town hall to give options, and to have people take some sort of either online poll, or I was suggesting that afterwards they send in postcards with their preferences to minimize the potential for online fraud. But this is one thing we have encouraged them in our letter, and you saw this, is we encourage them to present options that would either support the town plan as it is, or at least options that would allow a path to completion of the town plan down the line. One of the things in my thinking, and this isn't very firm, is that maybe this is too radical a shift for people in this town at this time, that they need some time to adjust to the idea that, really not too many people do park on the highway. And I think maybe some of the reaction we've seen has been kind of a knee-jerk, oh no, we don't want to give this up, without thinking about, well, we don't really use it as it is, and it's creates safety hazards as well. So, my thinking is pretty wide open on this thing. I would like to see that the options considered at least allow a path to the completion of the town plan. And we can't do that if we build big retaining walls and 4 lanes of traffic and things like that. So it sounds like Caltrans has come to the conclusion that they don't want to do that anyway. But we'll have to wait to the town hall to see what Caltrans actually presents.
Okay, so just
add something. Here we go. The letter, Tom, that you just finished reading a few minutes ago. It's encouraging to hear something like that. And also, I think there's a lot of truth to it. As one little example, for example, has anybody gone through Willits lately?
Yeah, Willits is an interesting example, and it's one that Frank has cited at times during our committee meetings last year. He said that...
Tom.
Sorry.
Please finish.
It was a rhetorical question, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So Willits, when you go through, for those of you who haven't been through Willits lately, you come in through the northern part of the town. There's parking on both sides. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of off-street parking like there is, in reality here in Gualala. So there are cars on both sides. And then it opens up. And all you have is 2 lanes of traffic, bike lanes, sidewalks, and there's some landscaping. I'll tell you, the change is dramatic, and it is so much more attractive and appealing and inviting, to just walk around and be in a part of town like that's designed like that. So I think there are many, favorable attributes to a streetscape that brings all these elements together in a way that is human oriented, and is less oriented towards the automobile. And that's the way the world is going. So I want to see Gualala be a part of that trend.
And it seems like we are trying to get back on track here with what we had going up until 2019. So I don't know how much more we're going to discuss on this matter. Do we want to save some for our October meeting? I know Caltrans is currently still dealing with a way to do the outreach, and that was the big issue, Tom and I thought, especially in that they would incorporate more of the actual residents and people in Gualala and north that use this main street. And I think one of the ideas that we came up with was that in their outreach, there could be some kind of a weighing system. The input from different parts of society, whether you're a stakeholder, a major landowner on the main street, whether you're a visitor, whether you're a renter, whether you live a little bit on the outskirts of the town. I think that was an important issue we hadn't talked about yet, Tom, and that was a way to weigh the input that different people are going to be giving on these postcard notifications. So anything else on that?
Just to add on that, that is an important point. And Frank said he said there would certainly be some sort of weighting mechanism, but then he said something like, if Nafili approves. It ultimately has to be approved by MCOG. I see Richie Wasserman still with us. He sits on MCOG. And I think this is something I'd like to see discussed at the MCOG council level to talk about not only Gualala, but gee, every project you have where there's a town hall involved and there's opinions being gathered, how are they being weighted? How are they being measured? Who's being invited to those town halls? The idea that there would be postcards sent out individually to all these people south of us, and not even to everybody in Gualala. And then the rest of the community would have to hear by word of mouth or by a legal notice in a newspaper, or maybe hear something on one of our radio stations, is just unrealistic. So I was very concerned that that's apparently a pretty standard process used at Caltrans. And it makes me, kind of a little light bulb went off over my head saying, wow, maybe this is one of the reasons that Caltrans runs into so much problems in communities. And also, when you have a proposal that comes out, the natural thing to do is go, oh, that sounds pretty good. Or if you really hate it, then you go to a town hall and protest it. So it kind of begs the critics to come out of the woodwork, and then you make the decision based on the critics as opposed to the people who didn't bother going to the town hall because they were fine with the plan. I think maybe that's kind of what we're experiencing, and it's hard to stand back from it and see it. But it's taken a lot of soul searching and due diligence to look into this thing. Like I think Robert and I have both taken a lot of heat over this, and really it's something that we've got our teeth into now, and we feel an obligation to follow up on and continue to report it. One of the pieces of advice I got from Brent Schultz was, if you want to change the outcome of the town hall, get people into the town hall. And I said, well, I don't want to start lobbying for one side or the other. And he said, just make sure people are aware of it. So that's, what I see my obligation as now, is making sure that they're getting information that they're not getting through other channels.
Okay, with that, folks, I think we should move on. What do you all think? Let's go on to...
Yeah, done.
Okay, 7B of the PSPS and Emergency Preparations Ad Hoc Committee. We just have Donald on that now. And Don, I know you posted something on the website, which is great. You want to take the floor on this?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have anything to report, obviously, since last meeting and what's gone on. Nothing's happened with the PSPS committee, and there really isn't anything urgent to do in any event. I mean, our final version of the disaster preparedness guide is up there. It's posted. You know, we can modify a little bit here and there as we move forward, but I don't see anything, any compelling reason to spend a whole lot of time on that right now, given other issues that are arising.
Other than the website, is there any other way that we could make people, I mean, people that go to our website, is there any other way to let people know that this document exists and that it might have helped them in these coming months?
Yeah, I thought a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was a month ago, that there was even a mention of this in the ICO.
Okay, I didn't recall.
GMAC was releasing this. Now, I don't recall whether that article mentioned anything about the fact that, well, if you want to see it or read it, you need to go to the GMAC website. I kind of wonder, you know, how many people have an awareness of the GMAC website. And that is, you know, something Tom and I, as member of the tech committee, are going to be working on going forward to improve the appearance of the site, to make it more attractive, more accessible, so more people can get some relevant information there easily. But that's, you know, it's not going to happen overnight, given other things that we all have to do.
Yeah.
Gradually, that's our goal, you know, to go in move in that direction.
I mentioned the guide at the Action Network board meeting, and Kathleen Bennett said that they were printing it via the internet off of our GMAC website and handing it out to their emergency with their emergency backpacks that they are giving to people for fire, for earthquake, etc. And they printed like 30 or 40 of them, and they really, really like them, and have told a lot of people, go to the GMAC website and look at it. So Action Network is very pleased with what this looks like, and they are definitely handing it out to people so that people will have it with them for the access out of here and what to have in their emergency kit, etc. So I just wanted the committee to know that they really felt it was an excellent, excellent booklet and very helpful, and they are handing it out.
Mary, that's great information to hear. I know Don and George and Sharon put a lot of work into that, right, Don?
That's correct, yeah.
So it's good to hear that somebody's getting use out of it.
Yeah, they were really impressed, and they're urging people to go there. And they're, like I said, they put it into the emergency backpacks that they are distributing to people who need them.
Mm-hmm.
I also got a note from Nancy Gastonguay from Coastal Seniors, who asked about the map in that report, and I referred her to the full report. And I think we put this on the Gualala Trading Post, if I remember, so that people would know that it was out there. And we also put it in our YouTube teaser that this was out there. And I also reported it to the Housing and Economic Development email recipients that this report was out there. So it has gotten a lot of eyeballs. I think we can continue to advance the report and promote it more as we go along. So it's a great idea and good work, good work. I think Melissa has her hand up, but it's so dark in her house I can barely see her.
Does she? Melissa, you have something to say?
Yes.
Okay, you've got the floor.
The website needs the current, actual, not cartoony outline of what GMAC covers. People won't know if they're qualified to apply to the council without that.
Can we wait till we're on the website item to talk about this?
Sure.
Website ideas, okay. Okay, will anybody else on the Emergency Preparedness Ad Hoc Committee? Otherwise, we'll go on and we'll come back to you, Melissa, under the ideas for the website. Housing and Economic Development Standing Committee. That's just Tom at the moment.
There we go. There we go. So I'm going to share 2 slides with you. Go through these pretty quickly. No formal meetings during the month of August, and may wait until we have an expanded council to renew meetings. In the meantime, I'm talking to a lot of folks. I attended a phone call last week, and we'll be doing another one in another week. This will intrigue Robert, I know especially, about a Mendocino and Humboldt County task force to attract workers from the Bay Area. Some of you may remember this is an idea I had locally last winter and have been working on a little bit with some local realtors. It's an effort to bring in higher wage professionals to areas including Gualala. Not all areas are right for all workers, and that's a big topic that we're going through. There's a discussion of how government, nonprofits, and realtors can all work together to do this. But if you think about Gualala, 10 people earning just $100,000, which is not a big wage in the tech industry, would add $1 million to our local economy with a trickle-down effect of $4 to $5 million impact on our local economy. That's huge. That's people going to restaurants on weeknights. That's people buying things in retail stores and supermarkets, hiring people at decent wages. So adding $5 million to our local economy is big money. And that's 10 people. Move 2030 workshops. I'm on the business and entrepreneur panel. You council members will remember Una invited you to join these meetings. I have joined they have 3 panels or 4 panels, and I'm on the business entrepreneur group. I've completed 2 sessions, and I've been volunteered to lead the incubator group, which is one of 8 different groups within that one panel, about 24 people on this panel. And we're going to look at the idea of incubating startup businesses and trying to find grants and money to do that, and how we would do that, and if it's even a good idea in Mendocino County. So we're just at the ground level of that. And these citizens who want to be involved in this, should reach out to me, and I'll be happy to talk to them. I've distributed 3,800 masks now, more than 30 half liters of sanitizers to local businesses. These are supplied by the California Office of Emergency Services. I'm personally delivering these and meeting people and hearing their concerns. I've kind of been surprised that there wasn't even a bigger demand, and we can get more of this if we want to. We're sending out the HED newsletter, and in the last one I teased our interest in housing and homeless issues, announced grants and made other announcements about what's going on at GMAC that may interest them. I promised the council an update on housing and homeless this month. This is a critical issue closely tied to health of hospitality and retail economies. Planning and building services. Of course, I reported to you that I had a very constructive call with Julia and Brent about the importance of us considering the use of our I always forget this, GPD land. And we only have a couple of parcels of this, and it's really critical stuff that would be used in a very limited circumstance. So that's something I'd like to continue to look at with the council, especially as we talk about the town plan. And other areas in the town plan that are suitable for development in terms of housing. There's a program Caltrans has that its surplus land may be used for housing. It's a state priority because of the housing crisis statewide. And Caltrans has been basically directed to turn over any surplus land that may be suitable for housing to local communities that may be able to use it. And so I'm going to be taking a look at that as I can. Identifying the different causes of homelessness is something that I have on the second slide, and seeking out experts on homelessness for a roundtable discussion is something that I would like to do. I don't know quite when I'm going to get to that. The next slide. Different causes of homelessness. This is from talking to people in the community, including homeless people in our community, and some of the people passing through. And some of the workers around town. These are some of the things I'm hearing. There's transients, vacationers and other travelers camping and parking on roads and woods. You may remember Sharon and George talking about people parked on roads, and I know that's a concern for Kathleen at Mill Bend. George was talking about one in our neighborhood. As it happens, I happened to talk to them. My wife talked to the guys who were staying in there. He thought they were a couple of guys from Southern California, but they were actually a couple of guys from Canada who were touring the West Coast and just needed a place to camp for the night. They pulled over in their camper van and on a utility right-of-way, which happened to be about 100 yards from George's house and on the route that I take walking my dog at night. Nice guys. They were just passing through town. They stayed to themselves and were gone in the morning. Fire evacuees, you may have seen on some of the 5th District page or the Facebook page, scattered reports of people driving through the area after their homes burnt. And one kind lady really moved me. She offered to let them park in her driveway and camp in her driveway as long as they needed to. I thought that was an amazingly compassionate act. She got like lots of hearts on Facebook for that. Our recent grads from Point Arena High, a disturbing number of them are couch surfing around town and have no place to stay and no jobs. COVID-19 has meant job losses and medical costs that have pushed people out of their homes. Poverty is an ongoing problem here. Our local living wage is roughly $25 an hour. That's pretty minimal. And most retail and housekeeping jobs pay about half of that. You can't basically work as a maid or a waiter or a retail clerk and afford an apartment in Gualala. Seniors, the average retiree in the United States receives about $1,100 a month on Social Security. Many people don't know that you have to, and that's, a lot of people receive less than that. The average cost of living are about $3,400 a month here in Gualala. Illness. We heard from the sheriff last month about the mental addiction, physical illnesses that leave people with no home and no support system. They have no family support, no circle of support, nobody to get them out of this, except maybe if the sheriff picks them up and takes them into a program. And lifestyle choices. I want to mention this. I always want to mention this. Some people actually prefer the freedom of being roofless. And I looked it up. They actually have a right that dates back to the Articles of Confederation, the 4th Article of Confederation, before our Constitution. And it was considered such an obvious right that it was not even written into the Constitution, but has been recognized consistently by U.S. federal courts since the 1860s. Numerous court decisions have recognized the right of people basically to move around and live wherever they want and do whatever they want. And I told the story last time at our meeting about a friend of mine. I consider him a friend who I met years ago when I was jogging in Golden Gate Park, and every day I'd go out there and there he was. And he lived in the park. And I said, he was a Stanford University grad. He knew a lot about cycling and had been a cycling scholarship winner at Stanford, had ridden in many of the same places I was riding. And he just chose to live roofless in Golden Gate Park. He was writing a book. There are people out there, one day I was on the phone with Robert when I was down in San Rafael, and I just stopped and talked to a couple of people like that, and Robert will remember this. Just talked to them for like 15 minutes about their lifestyle choice. So the next steps, I'd like to seek out experts for a roundtable discussion, including workers, employers, food pantry workers, planners, senior groups, schools, healthcare. Melissa, I know you have a continuing interest in this, and I'd welcome your voice at that table. Okay. I'm working with a bi-county group to finding low-cost home alternatives, fee reductions, non-traditional housing, et cetera. That's all part of that housing group I mentioned earlier. recruiting community volunteers to participate in enabling change. I'm talking to people in the community about, not only about maybe joining GMAC and doing things like that, but just working with some of our efforts to, in any of our efforts, to kind of facilitate some of the things that we're talking about, because we have a lot of big ideas and not a lot of muscle. And building community awareness of the issues requiring compassion care services and affordability, as well as law enforcement when that's appropriate. So that's all I wanted to report on tonight. We can discuss any of that if you like, but I just wanted to share that slide with you at this point.
All right, Tom, that was a lot. Thank you very much. That's
You're welcome.
a lot of work you're doing on those issues.
Important issues.
Yeah, I mean, little old GMAC, I mean, we can address them all, but it seems like we need some bigger power that helps us with a lot of these things, like the county, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I think the sheriff would be glad if he were still here. He'd be saying, yeah, any help you can give in that regard. I mean, just hearing last month when you said there was a problem in front of your office, Robert, and he says, yeah, please call us. He likes to be involved in these things. We have the most compassionate sheriff I think I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. He's a good man. Yeah. And we have very limited county resources. But I think the county, if you go to them and talk to them about this, they say, well, what can we do? Well, I think we need to come up with some ideas of what we can do. And to the extent we can, advocate for those and advise agencies on what they can do to help make the situation better before we see it getting worse.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thanks again, on that.
Welcome.
Yeah, good report, Tom. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
So on to 7D, public electric vehicle charging station in Gualala. A report from, I guess, Don on that. I know there were some emails that happened late this afternoon. I didn't have a chance to read them. That looked like they were about the EV situation. Can that be? Did you have a chance to read those?
No, I didn't. I'm not sure
okay.
Referring to exactly, but just briefly to bring you up to date. I mean, obviously we tried to get the community center to apply for the Cali VIP funds, and that fell through. My understanding is that John Bauer applied for some funding. I have no information as to whether he was successful. As a matter of fact, apparently Sonoma Clean Power is not, this is according to Joel, who is on the community committee for Sonoma Clean Power, Community Advisory Board for Sonoma Clean Power. They're not really releasing any information as to who has been approved for funding, which is kind of curious because these are public funds, state monies that they should be, you would think, fully transparent about. Anyway, I don't know what if anything is going to happen in Gualala related to Cal EVIP. Now, that said, Joel Chabin and myself met with this gentleman from a company called FreeWire, and he said that basically they might be able to put something in Gualala and they would pay for it and maintain it and everything. Of course, they would get any funding or any revenue from having it here, for the most part, maybe a little bit for whatever property owner would be willing to provide the property. So there we looked at, well, could it be the community center? I don't know. Really an ideal location might be the parking lot that's just behind the Gualala Hotel. So there, it could be either on the Gualala Hotel property or the Sunstrom Mall property. Correct, Robert? I mean,
yeah.
That's directly behind the hotel. That's hotel property, isn't it?
Right behind the hotel is, and they have a shared parking arrangement with the Sunstrom Mall. Yeah.
Okay, so depending on where this charger could be located, it would be located near that. There's a big PG&E transformer, external box right there.
Mm-hmm.
So the ideal location is very close to that. And so being close to that PG&E transformer, which would minimize the amount of work to get the electrical line, trenched to the charging station, that, as I say, that could be on either Sunstrom Mall parking lot area or the hotel. But we haven't heard back from him, so I'm not sure that that's a viable possibility at this point.
But they would front the cost, or they would take over the costs, huh? Free wire.
They would.
That was the stumbling block with the community center, I believe, was it not?
Exactly.
Or part of it. Okay. Wow, that's some news. Okay. They just need the land.
They need the land, right.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks, Don, for that report and your work on that.
Try to follow up on that in the near future, see if there's any progress at all. But since we haven't heard back, I'm not entirely optimistic, but that's where we're at.
Okay. Well, thanks again. And you guys are up right away again, you and Tom, on the Telecommunications Committee.
Yes, and I have one more slide to share that'll cover both of us, I think, Don. No, wait a minute, this is the wrong one. Sorry. Let me stop sharing there. It's the wrong one.
Oh, so you changed into a suit and tie very, very quickly.
Yeah, I do that. It's like my my Superman thing.
Yeah, Tom really looks like he belongs in Gualala with that outfit, doesn't he?
Not at all. You're right.
Okay, telecom. So I broke these down, Don. I did a couple of items for us. Website design. Don, you want to talk about that?
Yeah. I'm in the process of sort of getting up to speed with WordPress, which is the platform that we use for the GMAC website. It's an open source platform, so it is free. It doesn't cost us anything to use that. It's going to take me a while to get more and more comfortable with sort of changing the appearance of the website, making it a little bit more attractive, that kind of thing. For the time being, I can post things, needed documents or whatever, in a timely manner, hopefully, to the website as it is. But eventually, we want to make it more attractive, of course.
Was it 2017 that you were looking at, Don?
Yeah, the theme that we're using is 2017.
Let me just show one more thing here. I'll call this up and we can show it to the council.
What is
this
2017?
2017 is the name of a theme. So our site, you want to explain this, Don?
Yeah, in WordPress, there are themes which you can choose to use, which sort of helps format your data that you're presenting. And according to Tom, we should be able to change themes without too much trouble. And so we could do that, although we also have the option of just using the theme, continuing to use the theme we have now and just use the tools within the theme, which are very substantial, to change how certain information appears. And
so if you just look at this part of the page here, you see these navigation tools down here in this big picture?
You need to share your
No.
We don't.
Oh, you
don't see anything at the moment, Tom.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me share. Here we go. So here's the 2017 theme. And if you look at this upper left part of the page, this may look a little familiar to you. Just imagine a big black map here and our navigation across the bottom.
Yeah, like our current.
So that's one of many, many themes that are available on WordPress. And any of these are things that we could switch to fairly easily. For example, look at 2015. They tend to have a theme to highlight each year. This one has a smaller picture and some items on the left, and then an about item, and then more information about whatever you want to put up there, and it works more like a blog. But there's a lot of different variations. There's thousands of these, literally.
Mhm.
Some of them are made more for editorial purposes, like this one, 2012. Oops. Well, anyway, you get the idea. I don't want to spend all night doing this. It's really seduced by it. This one has the navigation up at the top, a small picture, a little explanation about who we are, and then blog items that you put in what's the latest news and that kind of thing. And you can make some of these sticky. So like the emergency report could be the top item for a month or so. And you can vary what you do. Here's how many people use these things. There's an awful lot of tools in WordPress. It's a very complicated system or a very simple one to use. And that's probably enough to share tonight, but Don and I are sorting through these and trying to decide what might be a better one to use for our purposes to better display the information we have.
Mhm. Yeah, the current homepage, you call it, on our website, what is the theme, right? Which is trying to show our website audience the jurisdictional area of GMAC. And everybody knows
but
that.
it's outdated.
Right.
But it's outdated. I don't think it's outdated. It still shows the jurisdictional area, but it's not, it needs to be on a smaller scale so it would show it better. But, it doesn't show the whole jurisdictional area. It just shows most of it. But so you're talking about maybe a different theme is what you're talking about. There it is. Yeah.
Don, did you tell me this is actually 2017?
2017 is the theme we're using, yeah. Now,
Yeah, this is the same one we looked at the other
Okay.
a minute ago. You see the navigation across the bottom and the big picture here?
Okay.
The theme is basically WordPress's name for the software used to frame all the content you put onto the site. So we have this big monster picture on the front of the site, which I don't think is really the best use of our space.
No.
It's the information of what we're doing from meeting to meeting, our agendas, or what is Gualala MAC when you get to it. You have to kind of go down here to the About page to find that information.
Yeah.
And then there's I can't even get it to work now. It's waiting for Gualala MAC.
Something like this could be a subsequent page or whatever, right?
Yeah.
the problem,
So wouldn't it be nice to have a more functional home page?
right, the problem,
Yeah.
the problem I see with this homepage is you always have to scroll down, to get to a place where you want to go. You always have to scroll.
I find that irritating as well.
It's irritating. So this map that we have here, while maybe it's an important map, it should just be somewhere else that you navigate to if you want to look at maps.
I can't
Yes.
even read this. I mean, I think we can get a better map too. This is unreadable.
It's outdated in that sense. You're right, Melissa.
It's pixelated to the point
Oh,
where you
good.
can't even read the items.
Right. Okay, well, we trust you and Tom and you and Don to come up with a nicer theme then, okay?
We're working on it, man.
Right on.
And before, even if you haven't made a final decision, Don, put that photo up of yours. It's of the Gualala River. It's gorgeous.
I think we could use some very attractive photos of Gualala and made that photo, say we have a photo on the home page. It could change maybe from month to month.
Yes.
New photo of it. So sort of refreshes the look of the website. So it's not so static. So it's more dynamic and
Yeah.
that'll, when people go back to it, they say, oh, this looks nice. It's different. There's something new here. When it's the same old thing, every time people go to it, it's boring. It's just so boring.
It's not only boring, but it looks like nobody loves the website. And if nobody loves the website, why would I want to go look at it? It's dead.
Exactly. And people, let's face it, there's so many websites that are so well designed these days. That's what people are used to, This thing looks like it dates back from like 10 years ago or something.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
I
20.
think that's an insult to 2010.
So if you use your photo, John, then we don't have to worry about copyright on images.
That's true. Or we could use some of your photos too of downtown Gualala or whatever.
We can all get good photos.
Yeah.
This one's not bad either. One of my photos. I mean, everybody takes good photos around here. There's no shortage of them. We could ask people in the community if we run out. But every time we put up an item, we can put up a photo with it. Every time I put up a YouTube video for our meetings, I put up a photo to kind of accentuate what we were talking about that meeting, what the hot item was. And if you look at our YouTube page, you'll see there's a picture of the sheriff one a couple of months ago, and there's a picture of the Streetscape map last month.
Yeah.
Kind of to tell people what the meeting was about. They can be informational. So when we put up items on the website, we put up the report of this meeting, the minutes or something, we could put up something to symbolize our discussions at this meeting.
Tom, I was in a Zoom meeting and someone
Where
told
are
me,
you? I can see you. You gotta get a light on.
I can't stand the light. It makes me feel sick.
How about a candle? Something.
Somebody told me that if you change your background from what's actually behind you, you're eating up bandwidth.
Yeah, I guess technically you might be. It's not much.
Someone told me. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Not much.
Okay. I didn't know.
Yeah. No, you probably are, but like I just changed my background on this, and I'm using bandwidth whether I have a black screen up there or a picture. So it's incremental. Oh, there you go. Now we need the Melissa back.
I just went to turn on some more lights because
There we go. Now we can
I
see
just
you.
I can't stand artificial light at night.
This is so much better actually seeing you. Thank you.
I had to turn on my light earlier too, so
I went and turned it on in another room because bright lights make me ill at night.
Well, let me go back to telecommunications, if I may.
Okay.
Don, was there anything else you wanted to cover on the website?
No, I think that's fine for now.
Okay.
weren't you guys, didn't we add something for this, something from Carolyn Sue? Where was that?
Yeah, I'll get to that.
Where was it going to be?
I'll talk about that after we finish this page.
Okay.
The YouTube channel update, the August 6th meeting, last time I looked yesterday, I think it was 103 views with an average of about 23 minutes. Frank Demling's presentation was the most interesting, and the two Chasey items were viewed most after that. July meeting was 81 views. The June meeting was 106. May was 43. In all of these, I'm seeing the same phenomenon of the big interest being in the first 5 minutes of the meeting, dropping off by the time we get to the agenda. It goes literally about 80% of our views are in the first 5 minutes, and then it just drops off, and then it kind of comes back as people come in and view a few minutes of this or a few minutes of that, but not very much. This was almost double the normal average. We had a 16-minute in our May meeting when we talked about the bylaws. It dropped to 12 in July, and it was back to 23 for the last one, I think, because people watched a lot of that debate and the unfortunate resignations of a couple of our members. And then the final item on this page is the town hall for next Tuesday, 7 p.m., COVID-19 with Barbara Patel, Warren Galletti, and Matt Kendall. We'll be doing that, and I'm going to be putting up flyers about that, and it's been noted to all the radio stations. And there's an article in the ICO, but unfortunately it has the wrong number, my fault, for the meeting. And I left off 4 digits that were critical, and at least people will know that there is one. Maybe they'll see another sign of it or something. I've told the radio stations that it needs to be fixed. So I'll stop sharing now, and then I want to go to that other item that we got. Get my email up here. We got a letter, a notice this afternoon from one of our residents reminding us that Calneva is going to stop serving the Gualala community. And so I quickly wrote to the general manager for Calneva, and I'm trying to find his response now.
What's his name? Tom Gilardi or something like that?
Tom Gilardi.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know I can't find it. Just a moment. There he is. Okay. He sent me a short note in reply. I asked for an immediate update on what the current status is, and I just want to make the council aware of this. It's, Don, I think this falls into our committee interest. Calneva has not offered video services in Gualala since the end of 2019. The struggle to attract and keep qualified technical employees has been a struggle for years. The operation has lost money every year since 2017. The continuing Gualala losses have drained the entity's working capital. I've been working without pay for most of 2020 and have lent personal monies to the entity to keep it afloat while I pursue other options. Coupled with the recent departure of the local technical manager for the fourth time in less than 3 years, the well has run dry. The operation, which once served nearly 2,000 households, currently serves less than 200. Over the last couple of months, I've been pursuing finding another entity to acquire Calneva's local assets and or assume its leases and or take over the operation. I am in talk with the local fixed wireless operators, 2 cable TV contractors, and 2 small cable TV operators. To date, things like promising that someone will take over. That being said, I cannot reach a deal by the end of September for the operation, as mentioned in the recent subscriber letter, and will be shut down. I had asked in particular if he could tell us, because this is of critical interest to, for public safety reasons, because people depend on this for a number of purposes, and for educational reasons in the age of COVID. I'm going to continue to work with Carol and Sue and see if I can find out what's going on with these subscribers, but there are no good low-cost options for these folks. Satellite and Further Reach and Sky Fiber, Hughes, they're all more expensive, considerably more expensive than what Calneva was charging, which is probably part of Calneva's problem. I was a Calneva subscriber. I think most of us were at some time. And as the service deteriorated, we fled. I'm now paying probably 3 times what I was paying for Calneva to get internet coverage, but it's good and it's dependable. So I'm happy to do it. Robert?
Yeah, Tom, at one time, Calneva had a lot of subscribers down in the Sea Ranch too, but then along came the fiber optic project down there, right? Where I'm sure they lost a lot of customers because of that. Yes,
Absolutely. And that project has its own challenges from what I hear from folks down at the Sea Ranch. Really it's very expensive, and there are some, apparently it's not as good for some people as it is for others. Some parts are still not connected. They just connected Burbank housing through some kindness of volunteers. But it's yeah, that's a far superior system to anything we have around here. I use Further Reach. It's excellent service. I have their premium business service because I need that. And it's $130 a month. So it's a lot. But when they go down, even during a power outage, if I can get an email out or a text, they respond in minutes and tell me what's going on and what I can do to get around it. So during the PSPS last fall, one of their technicians worked with me to get a battery hooked up to my modem. And not only did I get internet service, but I was able to, with a battery, power the disk on top of my house so that my neighbors also got internet service. There's so much that, you know, we're kind of still in the taking baby steps in the whole age of Wi-Fi, especially around here. And we need to take some quantum leaps, I think. And you know, between Don and I, we have some experience that maybe we can bring to bear on this and help try to push some of these ideas through in the communities and work with the county telecommunications group, which is, I think, a dead end too. this, by the way, ties into a lot of other things that I work on. The Housing and Economic Committee, the relocation program we're talking about. You can't get people to move anywhere unless they have good Wi-Fi. So, and the Wi-Fi here is, you know, 2, 3 times as expensive as the Bay Area for inferior service. So it's a challenge, but something that we should be making better progress on faster. And we may need to organize rural communities to push the PUC on this point. The PUC for a long time was very aggressive in backing rural communities. And one of the reasons phone service was not cheaper in the Bay Area was because the phone companies were required to provide every rural home with phone service. And when they revoked that rule, the California PUC, under regulations written by phone company lobbyists, revoked that rule. And as a result, you can't get AT&T or Comcast to provide service in Gualala. That used to be a no-brainer. I have an AT&T box on the corner of my block, and I can't get AT&T service, not for Wi-Fi. So it's something that rural communities have fallen behind on in California, and we need to probably work with our state legislatures and push forward to get better recognition of this issue. Anyway, just said on that. It's just a sensitive point to me. When I saw Carolyn's letter, I had to say something about it tonight.
Right. Okay. Thanks very much on that.
I have a question. This Calneva service termination is going to happen, at the end of September. This affects approximately 200 subscribers in Gualala?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, do we know that these particular subscribers could have access, if they chose to further reach? Or are they not in areas that further reach serves? Do we know that?
I would think we'd have to find out from Calneva.
200 is probably not a viable number of customers for them in Gualala. And it's a chicken and egg thing. They've let the quality of the service degenerate to the point where nobody wants it. And so the number keeps dropping and they can't afford to improve it.
That's not the point I'm trying to make here.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I understand why they're abandoning the business model they had here. If it's, a losing proposition for them, that's normal. I understand that. And if I were them, I'd do the same thing. But the point I'm making is, if these 200 subscribers of Calneva who are going to be dropped, in fact, do have access to a service, if they wanted to further reach, and maybe we could look at talking to Further Reach about some subsidies, or maybe an entity outside of Further Reach that could help subsidize these people if they can't afford it. Yes, Further Reach is expensive. I use it, but as I agree with you, Tom, it is pretty damn reliable. I really don't have any problem with the service, even though, yeah, I'm paying more than I would used to pay in Oakland for much less bandwidth, but it is sufficient bandwidth. It's enough for everything I do.
Further Reach does not have any sort of program in place for lower income.
Yeah, that's true. I think, and I'd like to talk to Further Reach about that to see if we could get a lifeline kind of service from them. They seem like a progressive company, but they don't think that way. And I think they maybe should. Sky Fiber too, same thing.
Oh, same thing.
I tried asking them about it, and the only thing they have is if you decide, well, you're going to suspend it, then you can't use it. But for $25 a month, you can suspend it and then reinstate it later on, and that's useless.
Yeah.
Son gets it, and he asked me to contact Further Reach. I did. They said they would have somebody email me regarding it, and it's been 3 months, and I have yet to hear from them. about connecting me. I've tried to contact them 2 or 3 times. They only work through the internet and email. They do not call you on the telephone. I can't talk with anybody regarding that. There's no phone number that I can dial to say, hey, you guys, get a hold of me. I'd like to do this. I use Wild Blue, and I'm very, very happy with it. And it's only about $60 a month.
60 is about twice what Calneva is, I think.
Yeah. But if it's unreliable, then $30 unreliable is $30 I may as well burn.
Yeah,
I've never had any problems with Wild Blue. In the stormiest, most rainy of weather, I still get my email. I still get my internet.
Mary, I don't know anything about Wild Blue. Is that a satellite service or wired?
It's a satellite service.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'm connected to the satellite.
Yeah, I'm on the further reach page now, and their cheapest plan is $70 a month.
Yeah.
Yep,
Well,
that's the one I'm on.
It's a decent plan. It's just.
Please, let me know if you can connect me, and they won't even get back to me.
Yeah, they don't do anything but except by email and sometimes
I know,
text.
and they haven't answered my emails.
That's unusual for them. Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea why. So I've just kind of given up on them, and my son really likes them a lot, but no.
Yeah, Sky Fiber I have down here in downtown Gualala, and it runs me about $89 a month.
Yeah.
So I feel for the subscribers to Calneva, where what are they paying? $30 to $40 a month. That seems where a lot of these prices should be, but I don't know. So what else do we have under Telecommunications Committee?
I think that's it for me. Don, you have anything else?
No, I don't. That's it.
Okay, because we're getting, what are we getting at? About 9 o'clock here. We don't want to lose Melissa. So let's move on to 7F, discussion. This is a continued discussion, by the way, from last month. Release of GMAC reports, guides, etc. Procedures of release. Entire council should talk on that. I can start by asking you all, like I did tonight, when I receive something from somebody like MCOG on this active transportation project, you probably all want to see what's going on. I'm not going to just sign a letter like that and send it off without you all seeing it, right? So I released it to you all, and you saw it. We made some changes, and I'm going to send it out probably tomorrow. Is that how we want to do it with any kind of correspondence we see or produce, or how are we going to go forward from now?
I think it depends on what it is. Candidly, Robert, you and I have lots and lots of contacts with lots of people about the Streetscape thing, because between our meetings, stuff happens.
Yeah.
And, we find out about a meeting and we jump on it like I did today. Or we talk to Frank and Nafili and something comes up that we didn't anticipate. And we have to act on it between meetings. But then I think there's an obligation to inform the council, as we do routinely, about things that we're working on that may be significant as they come up. And we've tried to do that through the year on that committee and other committees. I think, any committee you look at, we try to do that, including my, housing and economic development. I think Sharon was sensitive about the report that it wasn't a report, it was really a summary of our procedures that I did for Una, and I had Una address that the last meeting. It's something she requested in the middle of the month, needed in 2 days. I wrote it up for Move 2030. It was not a committee or council action, but I did it, and at her request, as reporting at what our committee had done in Gualala. And then I shared it with the public and the council as soon as I could. Right. Our report last month on GCAP raised a few eyebrows. And I think I explained this already, but let me reiterate it. We didn't know Frank was coming to that meeting until what, Tuesday, Robert?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it was on Monday, it was Tuesday when we decided Frank was coming, based on the meeting we'd had in June, where there was some reaction to us. Why are you making comments on this plan? Well, we decided at that meeting to wait until Frank and Caltrans had something to report. They reported on July 24th that they had run into problems with all three. And we asked him at that point to come and speak to GMAC directly. And when we learned Frank was actually coming on that Tuesday of that week, Robert and I said, well, this is when we should address these issues that have been building up and tell the council what we know. So that's because we had Frank, and it turned out Nephili, which was a total surprise to us. Frank and Nephili were at that meeting. That's why we presented our findings. We didn't start drafting those until Tuesday morning. We didn't finish until Thursday afternoon.
Right.
And under state law, we cannot share that with the council if less than 72 hours before one of our meetings. So we had to present it to the council live.
Mm-hmm.
If there's
Right.
any confusion about that, I'd be happy to explain it, but there was no intent to circumvent the blindside the council.
No.
In fact, it was a very public report to Frank, Nephili, and the council all at the same time.
I mean, there has to be a certain amount of trust that amongst us council members that, you know, we're working in the best interests of the council and the community to take care of business as it occurs. And I think that's well demonstrated by what we did there, because it came upon us quite quickly there right before the meeting.
Yeah, can I make a comment about this?
Yeah.
Under these circumstances, I can understand how this played out in terms of the timing of the report and presenting it to the council, you know, that evening. But under other circumstances, if there is more time, then I think any report similar to this should and could be shared with the council and even the public by putting it on the website, you know, well beforehand.
Yeah.
That way, everybody just has a little bit of time to digest material before the meeting. But I understand in this circumstance, since it was kind of last minute, Frank was going to attend till Tuesday of that week, etc. And then you had, you know, you wanted to put things, the whole informational package together so that we all knew the history of this and why we would even vote on something, you know, that evening. So I can understand that. And also, I think, given the fact that, to my understanding, most all the votes, if not all the votes that the council has taken on the streetscape have been in favor of a plan that basically complies with the town plan. Am I not mistaken on that? If
yeah, up to a point. The all three plan, which, by the way, I moved approval of that item last October 3rd.
Alt 2.
All three. All three after the town hall on October 1st. On October 3rd, we met, and I was the one who moved that we approve it, and we approved it unanimously after a 24-minute meeting. Now that plan.
But that's not to be confused with the current Alt 3. Is that right?
No, that is the current Alt 3.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we just got that produced by Caltrans, and they just presented it to us.
Right, but that's where it came from. It came from that town hall.
Right. Okay.
So, you know, each of the plans that we've proposed, the first one, Alt 2, we approved on, I believe, a unanimous vote. And we chose Alt 2 over Alt 1 because it was more favorable to the surf market.
Correct.
When the surf market complained, we proposed a compromise. And you may remember that compromise included parking for the surf market on an interim basis. That, again, was my motion to provide parking for the surf market on an interim basis. And then that was shot down in the town hall. We actually never got presented at the town hall, and the town hall comprised all three, what became all three, and we voted to approve that, but it was with an understanding that as soon as we went to MCOG and told MCOG, yes, we support this with the condition that owners have a right to opt out, Steve May jumped to his feet, asked Frank right there, is this true? Frank basically hemmed and hawed a little bit, read about a 100-word statement that concluded with the words, but yes, in the end of the day, I think that people should, in the future, have a right to opt out. And MCOG approved it that day, and then that night, Frank backed down on that in a big public way. I still have the emails, and then he sent us an email saying, you guys should keep quiet on this until Streetscape gets built, and then we can work on it. That's what we're kind of dealing with in the background. And we want to be honest. I'm trying to be extremely open and honest with the council and the public on what's going on. I have no secrets. There's anybody who wants to see any of these communications, I'll be happy to share them with you. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the background that you don't always hear. In June, when I brought it up, and to your point, Don, when we hear about things, we try to bring them up to the council and tell you about important turns. One of them was the discussion about the exemption clause, which had come up through our due diligence. We brought that up in June, and there was a lot of shouting and recrimination, and we were told we don't want to hear from you basically until there's a plan. And that's why we held off for 2 months. And when Frank came back and said, yeah, there's a problem with all three, we had him come to the council and explain that and explain where it is. And we reacted to that and gave our findings at that point. And that's why that meeting came together, that way that meeting came together. We probably could have reported some of those findings before that, but the council had made clear that it wanted to hear from Frank. So it heard from Frank and Afili. And again, we didn't know about that until 2 days before the meeting.
Okay, so back to the matter at hand, which is the release of the GMAC reports and guides and all. We do our absolute best to try to get the information out to all the other council members the minute we get it. As you've noted, just these past months have been prime examples of how the day of the meeting, we get bombarded with a lot of correspondence and things that we can't really put on the agenda anymore at that late point. I mean, our agenda goes out Monday, 72 hours before our meeting for the Brown Act, and it just seems to be a routine thing that we are dealing with too many pieces of information at the last moment.
And listen, folks, I can't, you know, I'm literally spending 30 hours a week on various meetings, some of which I don't know about till the day before.
Okay.
This entrepreneurs group, the housing relocation committees, the Caltrans thing that came up, I learned about yesterday. You know, there's literally no way. This is why we have committees. This is why we have individual council members to go out and do things in the community. Right. Any of you can go out and do things in the community, whether it's working on the emergency plan and talking to the fire chief. We can't always let everybody know exactly what we're doing from day to day. The point of having a monthly meeting and having committee reports at that monthly meeting is to report what the committee's been doing the prior month.
Right.
So let's keep that in mind. We are following the rules here. And when we can, we put them on the agenda. I asked for an agenda change tonight just to list an extra item on the telecom committee that I didn't know about until this afternoon. Mm-hmm. But we try to be inclusive, and I think everybody should be inclusive. I'm a big supporter of open meeting laws in the Brown Act, and have been my entire life. So, you know, I've taken a few hits about this the last few weeks, and a lot of it's just not true. And I think the whole council has taken a few hits over this from people who don't know better, don't understand the law, don't understand what's going on between meetings, and have been quick with the accusations and weak on the facts.
Okay, no, that's good to hear, and I understand. I just want to sort of emphasize the point that now that we're, you know, trying to work on the website, make it more accessible, more attractive, so we get better readership of the information that's on the website. You know, I mean, I'm going to make a commitment to try to place anything that is asked of me to place on the website within a 24-hour period. So, you know, we get the information out there in a timely manner when it is available to us in a timely manner. And I can understand the situation that happened last month. I'm just saying, you know, let's maximize and take advantage of this website we have to really place information in the public domain.
Yeah, I will be helping Don on that too. He'll be webmaster, but I'm pretty familiar with WordPress, and when we finally get set up, I'll make sure that I know the ropes. So if Don's not around, we can do that. I think when, you know, I'm not dinging anybody here, but when Lloyd was gone for 3 months last year, we basically had no website changes during that time. Minutes were behind, notices were behind, and that was a problem. So we'll try to have a backup system so we can do things a little faster. I would very much like to see us be more aggressive in reporting things as they develop during the month. That doesn't mean that, you know, every meeting somebody goes to is going to have a report on the website, but it does mean that significant reports or documents that are produced, like a draft emergency preparedness report, can be posted before our meeting and have the public have a chance to weigh in on it. And I think we did do that, didn't we?
We did.
So,
disaster preparedness report, yes.
Yeah.
And yes, I think going forward, the fact that both Tom and myself will be involved in the website, good thing. So there is backup. So if one or the other of us is gone for any period of time on vacation, even though nobody takes vacations anymore, we take staycations. We're all on permanent staycations.
You're right.
Anyway. Yeah.
Okay, well, have we covered that topic, you guys? Because we're going to have another big topic coming up here, the discussion or the continued discussion of the Gualala town plan. So are we all done on that item of releasing their GMAC reports? Anything else, Tom, Don?
Anybody in the public have a comment on that?
Melissa, public? Okay, then let's move on to item 7G, discussion of the Gualala town plan, which was carried over from last month's meeting because we ran short on time. I was going to mention something about that item at last month's meeting, but then everything went a little astray. But I was going to suggest maybe some kind of a council retreat, or maybe even a special meeting or something, where I would suggest, you know, we would maybe contact some past individuals who were instrumental with creating the Gualala town plan, or were involved on creating a town plan, and maybe having a sit-down visit with them to give us a little bit of a history on. I mean, I have some history because I attended a lot of those meetings during the creation or formation of the town plan, but I think it'd be really good to hear it from some of those people that were actually involved with dealing with the creation or the formation of the Gualala town plan, which is some 20 years ago now. And so I throw it out there again, or I want to mention it to you all, if that would be a good idea, to maybe create some kind of a retreat excursion, or, you know, locally or wherever, and invite some people that have done this in the past to give us a little historical background.
Are you thinking about this for a council thing? Because it would be a public meeting if the council's present.
True, it would be. And so we would have to agendize it, and some public members may show up. But I think it was primarily for the benefit of us council members to get a little historical background on certain parts of the town plan. I mean, that would be a good start.
Special meeting?
What's that?
Would it be a special meeting rather than our regularly scheduled meeting?
I would think it would have to be, yeah. So we can just deal with that one topic. And we'd go somewhere, we'd do all the COVID PPE stuff, and we would maybe it's on a piece of property where we could walk around and talk rather than being in a sit-down type of a situation.
You know, I think that makes sense, Roberts, in the future. I see Melissa shaking her head, and I can see some problems with this,
Okay.
doing a
With
physical
the
meeting.
public invited, with the
But-
public invited, it would be a real problem.
Yeah, I think it could be right now. And also I'm thinking that that might be an excellent starting point for some new council members if we get 2 or 3 new appointments to
Mhm.
have that session with them present. I'm already thinking that those people will also need Brown training and ethics training.
Right.
But, you know, I think in the meantime tonight, in the few minutes we have for this, you know, what can we say about this? I think there has been a tempest in a teapot, as I said in the paper, about the need for changes in the town plan. We've had a council member who every meeting attended brought up the issue of how we need to completely rewrite the town plan. And honestly, my first few meetings, I thought it would be a good idea to tackle that. And I learned over time that that would be a silly and ridiculous idea. But I think some other people come in with an agenda that they're going to do this on behalf of perhaps a landowner in town that would benefit from that, and don't really think about the impacts that could have on creating housing for people who need housing at an affordable level, or think about the commercial development, or think about the impacts on other parts of our town, especially businesses. So I think that, you know, I have a lot of respect for the town plan at this point. It's not, some of the data is out of date, and maybe we need to freshen that from time to time, or do an appendix to it or something like that.
Mhm.
But I like the basic philosophy of the town plan, and I realize it would be a multi-year process of gathering the data from our community to look at that and to propose it on a broad county level, and then have it approved by the State Planning Commission, the Coastal Commission. So I think, you know, we always need to keep the town plan in our vision and in our thinking and in our open minds to think about what's working, what's not. There's parts of the town plan where, thanks to this push to change things, I've become pretty adamant about keeping some things as they are. And it's helped me build my respect for the town plan. So that's all I have to say about that tonight, but I don't think we can do a lot on this tonight.
No, we can either just discuss it a little bit briefly at each of our meetings every month. We know it's gonna be a long process anyway. The county doesn't have the personnel to lend us or to work on the town plan. If there was a need for it, it's a 10-year process from what I understand to even update it. So should we think about that now or another 5 years? Or, I mean, I looked once at the Mendocino town plan, and they went through a lot to even, until they got to the point where they were able to update it. But that's just on the side. I mean, we have a good plan. The only thing
How old is the town plan?
2002.
18 years. It's 18 years old. How old is the Bill of Rights? The idea of using as an argument merely that, oh, it's so old, is petunia fertilizer. I'll be nice. Petunia fertilizer.
It has actually a 30-year planning horizon, but that could well go into beyond there, in fact. But I don't know. What should we do?
Let me play the devil's advocate here. We asked Julia specifically about this last year when she came to the council about what is involved in a town plan change. And she said, well, the county at that point, when they had a full accounting staff, planning staff, they could maybe consider 4 incremental changes to town plans in the county per year. But turns out the state level can only consider about 4 plans statewide a year changes. So for us to get in that horizon, I think George reached this conclusion, it's looking years and years down the road before little Gualala is going to get attention from the State Planning Commission, Coastal Commission on this kind of thing. And you'd have to have a pretty compelling reason to do it. I don't think we're there. I think the idea of having a forum on this when COVID eases up a little bit, when we can get together and do that, is a great idea. A workshop, a half-day workshop, maybe on a Saturday.
Mhm.
So we can do some public education and get some public comment and hear from some of these great people who really put some thinking into this plan and the background on it. That's very important stuff. I'm tempted to do videos with them now, just in case something happens to any of these people and we lose them.
Right.
They're gold
We don't,
information.
we don't have time to change the town plan before we get the streetscape finished.
That's another thing.
Uh-huh. And the streetscape plan would require just maybe an amendment to our existing town plan, which is a little bit simpler. And even then, it may take, well, we're looking at least 3 years as it is anyway on the
Yeah,
street.
I'm not even sure that's true, Robert. The
Okay.
town plan, in its foresight, the town plan has the exemption clause that allows certain things to be changed.
You're right.
And everything that's been changed up to date fall within that exemption clause. The things that came out of the town hall do not, which was the problem we talked about in our findings.
Bingo.
Don, you were going to say, Don, go ahead, Don.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'd like to get a word in here. Basically, I feel that there is no urgency to address this issue. Not only is there no urgency, it's not the right time, even if there was urgency, because there appear to be no resources available in the county nor the state to address this issue. So I think we already have a viable town plan. And yes, it's a little bit out of date with certain aspects of it, like, okay, they recommended putting housing down where Mill Bend is now. Well, that's not going to happen. But basically, the philosophy behind it, I think, is still valid, and we don't need to change that. Not only that, as I say, the reality of it being changed anytime soon is that it's not going to happen. So I think we need to accept that, accept the fact that we have a town plan and we comply with it to the best of our ability. And not worry about it. And we've got so many other issues that we're dealing with now.
Right.
I think we have the bandwidth to start looking into the town plan. Maybe some kind of a forum down the road, not anytime soon, about the town plan to educate people, maybe look at what maybe could be modified in the future at some point, just get some ideas thrown out there. Maybe that would be okay, but I personally am not willing to spend any time on it in the near future.
Agreed.
Okay, then why don't we keep it off the agenda for the time being until there's a need?
I'd like to make one more point.
Listen.
The town plan, we didn't swear an oath to uphold the town plan, but GMAC was formed to fulfill or modify it. And since we can't modify it in time, any member who refuses to uphold the town plan should not be allowed to vote or discuss the subject because they have a conflict of interest between the purpose of GMAC and what they want.
That's a good point, but
amendment issues there. I don't know. It's kind of like, Trump undermining the Constitution. He's
exactly
away with it.
He shouldn't be legally allowed to get away with it, and neither should a GMAC member legally be allowed to do anything contraindicative of the town plan.
Huh, okay, well, then we'll never
or
have...
they're violating their I'm tired. they're violating their standing. It's a conflict of interest. The town plan is the town plan. We're here to uphold the town plan. If you're not here to uphold the town plan, you don't need to be on GMAC. And if you are on GMAC and don't uphold the town plan, you can talk about CDPs and you can talk about timber harvest, but you can't talk about the streetscape.
You know, I think it's fair to raise a question at any time. And I would support everybody's right to do that. But to actively lobby to do something without talking about why you're doing it is disingenuous to me. There's some fine legal lines there that I don't think anybody really crossed, and I'm not accusing anybody of that. But it is an ethical gray area where if you can't be open-minded about where you're going, about considering the facts before you, you shouldn't be on the council. You need to be open-minded about every subject that we hear. And if you already made up your mind about any issue, like we need to change the town plan, then you need to open your head and think about that more. I'm certainly open to it, even though I like the town plan and I'm defending it a lot, but I understand that there's, you know, I'm always open to discussions of it.
The whole idea of updating the town plan came up when the issue with permitting the heliport came up. I think it was last year. And so that, along with the streetscape plan needing some work on the 80-foot corridor that's mentioned in the town plan, that's how it came up. Those two items I recall. And so that's where we all did, or some of us started discussing the updating or the revising or even just amending the town plan. So it seems to me too, I'm hearing you all, Melissa, that it would seem like it'd have to come forth from all of the council members, or there's 5, 6, or 7 of us, that we'd all have to be in unison and say, yes, we need to do something about this part of the town plan, or there has to be a unanimity on that, I would think.
Unanimous or a majority, one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just that, you know, starts with the kind of forum you're talking about, Robert, and
the forum, you're right.
And a bigger council and more resources. And, you know, I'd welcome a chance to hear from these people and talk about the town plan and get more background. Let me back up to something you said about the 80-foot wide lane. That is a perfect example of why we have the exemption clause in the town plan for the streetscape project. Right. The exemption clause allows for physical impediments to allow the change in the right of way. And that was a change in the right of way due to physical impediments that are fairly obvious, an existing development that's fairly obvious to anyone.
Right.
So then we got down to the 60-foot width, and that made more sense to everybody. But it didn't require a change in the town plan because the town plan doesn't mandate 80 feet. It mandates it if there's not physical impediments, and there were.
Right. Okay.
United States of America has a constitution and amendments to that constitution that have been added over the years. So amending the town plan would not be, you know, against any rules or regulations. And
True.
to amend the Constitution, you can amend the town plan, and forbidding somebody to even discuss it would be a little authoritarian and,
No.
I hate to say presidential at this point.
No, that's not what I meant.
Of a president.
Okay,
That's not what I was trying to say. That is not what I was trying to say.
Mary was.
I didn't take it that way, Melissa.
Mary was speaking as a citizen, by the way, and so.
I was definitely speaking as a citizen on this issue.
Yeah.
I have no opinion as an administrative secretary, period.
Let's revisit it as needed. Like I was suggesting earlier, we don't have to have it on the agenda like we've had it now for the last 2 months, we can take it off the agenda and put it on at some later point when we feel like we need to address something. How's that?
I agree. We should remove the agenda.
Then we can move on. Then we can move on with our meeting and get to some more important stuff we got to get to, business items here. And we'll conclude our meeting, okay?
Good.
Okay, so we'll move on. But at least we continue the discussion from last month. We have on the agenda under 7H discussion, election of a new treasurer. I had an email exchange with Mary today, and she sent me her invoice for August, and I said to her that I would take it up with the county and send it to the appropriate person to get her paid. As far as a treasurer in the future, I don't know. You guys are taking on a huge load, as I can see, from what I can see, you and Tom, you and Don. So I don't know, would you want me to be the treasurer, interim treasurer, or I don't know if Melissa wants to tackle something like that, but I don't mind. I mean, I'll help out where needed on the treasury end of things, okay?
That's fine with me. I think when we get a bigger council, we could revisit that. I have some, I never charged for the Zoom meetings. So I'm still covering that out of my pocket, but I haven't thrown away the receipts either. So at some point I'll submit a receipt for those.
Okay.
It's cheap. It's $15 a month.
Okay.
Robert, I think that's a good idea. If you could be the interim treasurer, and then as soon as we get, a couple more members, then hopefully one of those members could take on that task.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
for the first couple of days after the last meeting, I was hoping George would take it on, but he changed my mind.
Okay, you changed your mind somehow.
He changed my mind.
Right. Well, it took a couple of weeks, but it did happen. Let's move on to, I'll do that, and then let's move on to number 8, Administrative Secretary Mulbert's report.
Yes, last month was huge. I worked 38.95, almost 39 hours. Materials were $4.22, and just my labor alone was $584.25. So the total was $588.47, and I tried to cut everything I possibly could, but like I said, I worked all but 8 days on GMAC last month.
Okay, Mary. Thank you for your report. All I can do is submit it, right? We'll see what, and
Right, and when we were in the hole, and there were a couple of years when we were in the hole and they didn't give us any money, they still paid me.
Well, we had money in the bank last time.
Right. And,
Lloyd reported on us.
Said that we were doing fine, but I hate submitting a bill like that. I truly do, but the minutes were huge, and the emails back and forth, and then we received another CDP, and I didn't even write any letters or anything like that. I just let you know that the CDP was there and how to see it, and that was it. I didn't write letters. I didn't do anything because, number one, you were going to address doing that, and who walks it, but with a 4.5, almost 4-hour, 10-minute meeting, just the meeting alone, let alone, writing the minutes for it, plus 3 people resigned, plus, it was
well,
a hellish month.
it's been 2 extraordinary months now. So here we are working on another 4-hour meeting almost. Well, 3.5, and we're almost to the end. I'm gonna not have a report. I'm gonna keep mine totally short tonight. Vice Chairman Murphy, do you have a report other than
I think I said way more than I expected to tonight already.
Okay. So we're down to assignment of the new CDP we got. And there's only 4 of us, but who would like to see that? Or,
well, I'm afraid my rotation is up. I'm probably due.
Are you due? Okay.
Yeah.
Any other volunteers on that one? Melissa's asleep.
Mm.
Well, she already volunteered for one. Dawn's into one.
I'll do it. I'll do it
That'd
with
be
you.
you and me, Robert.
Okay, so
If
we've
you wanna
got
have a
that
second.
assigned.
I do it alone if you want to, but I know you like to have 2 people on them.
Did I
Yeah.
volunteer to do a walk? See?
Yeah, you did.
Did you didn't, do you want to, or?
Well, it's just that I'm gonna forget it by tomorrow because I'm asleep.
Don will
Okay,
remind you.
It depends. If you don't want to do it, I'll do it.
No, Robert, she's talking about the other one.
Okay, we've assigned it. Tom and I will take care of this one. Okay, then. So we're looking towards adjournment. Can we have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
I
Second?
said
Melissa seconds. Okay, Melissa?
aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Robert? Aye.
Yeah, it's
Thank
good
you
thing.
all. Thank you all. Thank you, Mary, for staying up so late, everyone. And-
Melissa, thank you for staying up too.
3 hours cut off.
Okay, so what time do we have exactly?
We got 9:37.
9:37. Okay. We beat.
9:36.
Okay.
Go with official Mary time.
Thank you all for hanging in there once again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Good
night.
9:36 is when the vote carried.
Okay.
All the
Bye-bye.
rest of us chit chat.
Got it, Mary.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'm stopping the recording.